right? Thank you, thank you. See the ones. Uh, your body rewards you when you recognize a threat, so you get the dopamine hit. And you're seeing a lot of threats when you're watching horror films or listening to creepy pasta horror stories or real life stories that your your brethren or sister told you about what happened during their day in the hood, for example. I mean, it's like when you hear the story, you're hearing it from a controlled environment where you can process things in a safe and horrible things in a safe way, because you know you're safe. This can lead to a cathartic moment when you have an emotional breakthrough over some trauma that you already had. Some people love horror films, some people don't. I think those people that love the horror films and the narratives and the storytellings, they have more cell adapters that pick up that dopamine. Whereas the people that probably don't want to have anything to do with that dopamine rush, they probably don't have so many cell receptors for the horror, under the horror lid. Yeah, so we're gonna do that. I wanted to look at this real quick, though. I saw that Flow State was talking about. I think he had like an astrologer on his broadcast the other night. I just wanted to bring that up real quick because it was interesting because he had an interesting thumbnail with the Scorpio sign and a Gemini and an Aries symbols. So I wanted to see what that's about real quick. So all you drama hoas will probably like this for a second.
to be your wife. That is wild.
Oh, she said you wouldn't want to be in life. Comment from Shadow Buddha. She's speaking facts. High status, rich men, powerful men go to astrologers and occultists for advice. That's telling you something. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I guess some brokies want to laugh about it and try to shame people, men, for like, or even women too. They say like, what's their big go? They say astrology. Women use it as an excuse for their poor behavior. They talk about their star sign. When it's like, if a woman is doing that in front of you, man or woman, but especially a woman, and then you're trying to be with her and partner up with her, I mean, let her know that that's bullshit. It's like, come on, you can't say that that's the reason you act the behavior you're doing is because of your star sign and you're locked in. You know, I mean, you can transcend that. I'll give it to you that I'll be like, yeah, that's maybe how your personality acts on default because of your, your natal chart, the way it's set up. But you can override that, man. Well, man. So that's a weak argument. People are just a fear of the unknown, what they don't know. I think it's easier to talk shit. That's what my little students do. The little kids do. You said I'm more into verdicts. It's more soul oriented than ego oriented. So laugh out loud. Soul. Okay, yeah, I get it. The soul, right? The soul, the soul as it wants to pull away from the source energy, but also wants to pull back at the same time. It's interesting, yeah. More ego. I just call it attachment to the self, the false self. But that's what we're all dealing with, to be honest. Like, on one level, it's like the Western astrology is like reading like how your facial expressions or the clothes you wear. But of course, underneath, you're something deep. But most of us are going off with the clothes we wear. At least the people I'm probably dealing with. That's why I fuck with the Western astrology. But I'll get into the Vedic sometimes. So let's see.
Because one day you're like, I want to play, and the next day you're like, let's fucking get done. Like, because the Gemini is like the child and the adult. It's the total ends of the astrology. It's the birth, the little newborn, and it's the old wise sage, kind of like the hat.
The Gemini? I guess if you're talking about Gemini as a toddler consciousness, always trying to find novel things to get into real quick, skimming things. But the polarization is the Sagittarius, the wise, whatchamacallit, philosopher, professor, higher learning Sagittarius. But here's the thing, dude, the way I see it, Sagittarius is an adolescent. Which are great. Not great always to be friends with if they want to bully you or they think they know it all. If you're trying to teach them something, lead them, the Sagittarius, they think they know it all, and they probably do know maybe they know more than the teacher about some things, but they don't know life in a lot of ways. So let's go.
Then you said the Aries moon. Ooh, your emotional state. That is wild.
What about my emotional state?
Well, Aries are know-it-alls. They think that they know it all. They're the Ram. And most of the time
she said Aries think they know it all. I would say Aries know they know it all. There's a difference.
They know most things. But
the difference is they just pull through what they know. They won't waste time in telling you that they know or try to prove to you. They'll just show and prove. I see the Aries as the yogi of the zodiac, in motion, in the present. Their mantra is, I am.
You don't know everything. You guys are always right, or you have to be. Your Aries tend to be very kind of dismissive, not because they're trying to be mean. It's just like their way is the right way, and it's what's important to them. And if that's not you, they don't really care. Aries are no nonsense. There's no fluff. There's no,
True.
How are you, honey? It's just like, let's go.
I guess if someone was just an Aries sun sign or something like that, but they're not, I guess, like Alexander's saying, there's other components of the chart, right? There's other components of the chart. My wife is triple Aries, dude. Like Aries sun, Aries moon. Aries sun, Aries rising, but then she's a Taurus moon. Venus and Taurus, so it softens her out because she's actually very kind to people. She's not just like this blunt, maybe I don't even see her talk to her friends like that. The few friends that she has that I know, she doesn't even talk to them, but she'll talk to me a little blunt sometimes if I get, if I'm feeling myself a little bit too much. Probably need to be taken down a peg the way if she feels like it. But in terms of like being rude like that, nah. Shadow Buddha, nah, he has grace. But it's in there to him. I know it's in there. They could do that. Lady Luck, she has grace. But with that said, I really do believe the Aries, they don't got time for the bullshit. They're in the now.
And, the Aries is a very strong dynamic. Most women can't hang with an Aries unless they also have a fire or air sign that kind of like you'd be really bad. I think with like a water sign, it would not be good, or an earth sign who's really grounded.
And then later on, I think he says that his wife is his girlfriend or whatever is not whatever. His partner is Miss Flo is triple water sign.
And not up here where Aries is like, I'm I know what I'm doing. I don't need help. I don't need authority. I'm doing me. That's kind of the vibe. That was a wild combination. I've never heard that one.
What about that combination is wild? I don't know a lot about astrology.
Well, just what I just said. I mean, you're Scorpio. Scorpio is known as kind of the black sheep, if you will, because it's this obsession with sex.
Is he a Scorpio? I thought he was a Sagittarius.
Death and lies, even though that is taken out of context, but that is what you're known for. And Scorpios hide shit and this and that and the other. And then that's just your sun. So then you have your ascendant, which
Scorpios hide shit, but one of the most intuitive readings I've resonated with when somebody was talking about astrologer was talking about Aries, Scorpio. Actually, they're down for the truth. They're literally really down with the truth, searching for the truth, right? And unless they get, and I guess, well, we'll see his Flo's content real quick. He's called himself drama slut, so he's trying to find the truth of the drama, whatnot. In digging like a detective, that's a archetype of a Scorpio. It could be like, searching explorer, detective in the muck, right? Scorpio's about the truth. The only way I can see a Scorpio energy not fucking with or not presenting the truth I find is because they're biased or something and they really hate loathe the person that a person in that dynamic and the truth that they're trying to share. So, I mean, I hope I wouldn't do that. But my thing is like, if I find some truth about somebody that's like the homie or whatever, and then this is my job to expose, I probably would make a caveat, be like, this is my good friend or my brother or my sister. However, what's right is right. They fucked up, right? Or if an enemy even did something good, I have to probably give them the just due of the truth, because the truth was supposed to be the priority with Scorpio, unless I guess they're unbalanced and on some revenge shit, which can get very messy.
Is Gemini. Geminis are also not easy to get along with because
both
they're
Mars.
Always,
both Mars.
Your Mars.
They're both Mars. Both of those two planets are in Mars.
Oh yes, correct. And Geminis are they kind of are always in a dichotomy. It's always a juxtaposition. They need their time alone a lot. They retreat and then they just won't kind of fucking call you because they don't want to. So it can be confusing.
Yeah, some of those Geminis, they disappear forever
in relationships. And then an Aries is just the know-it-all. I'm always right and kind of
I mean, dude, the way she's saying it, it's like they keep it to themselves, the Aries. We're talking about Master Creator good with this shit. I'm an Aries solar I'm an Aries solar eclipse. The thing about Aries that I get that, the know-it-all for sure. However, they won't let you know they know it all by their words or whatever. More about their actions or whatever. In the sense, I would say an Aquarius is more of a know-it-all. They're what we call under the source code chamber. The source code means when you're plugged into the source of consciousness, the stream of consciousness, which Aquarius has access to if they're doing what they're supposed to do. but some of them have access to it or are close to it, but they come up as a know-it-all. They know they're a genius. You know those people who know they're like genius and smart, and they're not. But they're not. They always have to tell you that or tell people that. That's a know-it-all. Aries is more showing and proving. You know, that's how I see it, and that's how it is. Yeah. Sapiosexual. Those people that like knowledge or something like that. I think so. Yeah. What's going on, Wicked? Good to see you. Just looking at this chart before we go
in my flow. That's a wild. Like you need a strong woman who can really, not strong like competitive, but strong like she can put up with your. Because that's a wild one. That's probably the most wild dynamic I've heard.
You're not
What
wrong.
about the opposite end of that? What about, I can't believe you said that Taurus is feminine, like with the sign of the bull.
Because the planet's Venus, dog. The Taurus is Venus, man. It's beauty, the artist, the true artist. Yeah, they can be a bull in the china shop sometimes. Be a lunkhead. And be dusty. Dusty meaning like, because to us, the way we grew up, dusty means being stagnated. Like dusty. Oh, that's dusty. That got no water on it, no swag on it. You know, Taurus can get like that when they're not producing an emotion.
No.
You gotta kick them in their culo.
No, let me take that. Okay, so Taurus is the most. It's the feminine sign of for women, right? For women. Yes, it is the bull, but it's the earth. When you think of the earth, what do you think of? Like grounding, think fertility, right? Earth is like where everything comes and is birthed, gives life, right? Without the earth.
I think these guys, a lot of people, but we're using these I'm going to generalize, call them manosphere people. They get all like sensitive when someone says, "Oh, your sign is feminine," or first of all, it's kind of weird. Like normally they say they don't care about astrology, but when they say, "Oh, your shit's feminine," your sign's the feminine, they get all like their panties in a bunch. That's hilarious. It don't matter if it's feminine or masculine. You know you're a man. So why are you all hurt? Just you being on on a panel for 5-6 hours is feminine, if you ask me. Not there's anything wrong with being feminine, but come on, man. Yeah, get over it, bro. Everyone has a dynamic of feminine and masculine in them. Fucking hilarious stuff. Try to tell them a story about the cow in the field. Yeah, this is a masculine way of doing a feminine thing. So there's 2 cows grazing on the meadow, and the meadow is a very good archetypal setting for Taurus. It's very peaceful. You know, all the food's there, the shade, all the females are there, relaxing, and then there's an old cow, a bull, and a young buck calf with him. And the calf's like, look at all that ass. It's springtime. Let me get some of that cow loving, right? And he's like, I'm gonna run down there. And then the OG, triple OG bull, he goes, young man, son, why don't we just walk down there slowly and enjoy ourselves and and mount each one of them, in due time. Nice, not, killing them softly, basically. You just take your time. Take your time, man. You don't have to rush, right? The opposite of Scorpio is Taurus too. Teaches you a lesson on getting out there and experiencing things. Scorpio diving deep, as well as Taurus looking at what you value.
There's no nothing. So the Taurus is an earth sign, but it is very much so connected. Okay, most Taurus women are very shapely, not BBL shapely, not fake shapely, real shapely. They typically have bigger hips. Why? Because that's connected
to birthing hips.
The fertility, and a lot of so it's Taurus 1, it's Virgo number 2, because Virgo's obviously what? The virgin, the mother, the feminine.
Is that why I'm Taurus, but I've always like Virgos and Leos is what I've landed on most.
Taurus.
Hear about
So
this
yes, it's the polar opposite. So they're very good together. We are like this. Like
shit.
Scorpio, Pisces Sun, Scorpio is a. I texted my.
Go ahead.
what is it, Chairman?
Well, I said it's a surprise that you have codependency issues.
I'm being a little facetious, but we're very fucking close.
Yeah.
My girlfriend is a triple water sign.
Okay. What is she?
Pisces, Scorpio, Scorpio, Pisces Sun, Scorpio Moon, Scorpio Ascendant.
Pisces, Scorpio, Scorpio. That's good for you, actually. That's really good.
Didn't you just say that a water sign would be hard?
Well,
Pisces and Scorpio mix is interesting because anytime a Scorpio can crush the Pisces, the amoeba consciousness Pisces, victimhood Pisces, if the Pisces not strong in their selflessness. I don't know, bro. This is Vedic though, man.
here's why.
I'm not feeling
Because you said Pisces, because the Scorpio, though, another Scorpio.
Mm-hmm.
Scorpio is not the same as like a Cancer, right? A Cancer, she would fall apart on you emotionally. A Scorpio, she says, I see your crazy dark sex magic and I'm matching it. You know what
So-
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Janelle, how many times has somebody told you that astrology is ridiculous and that it's not real?
See, these guys were waiting to say that. That's just funny.
Lots of times, but I do my first intake with my session with my clients, and then I say, do your stuff. They bring it back to me, and then I just tell them about their relationships, how they are in business, how they are in love, and they're like, that makes sense. And I'm talking about the most
Listen, it's not real, okay? It's not real. But I'm gonna say, reading your Quran or your Bible, I mean, everything is true about that. That's just funny to me how people would say
logical
that.
men,
It's real
Yeah.
enough. It's real enough for some people. Astrology.
good jobs who make good money, and they're like, yep, that's right. And they might say, oh yeah, not always, but they'll always tell me. And so I just say,
Do you think that they buy your course and then feed into that because you're an attractive woman and it has nothing to do with the astrology?
it's not my course, because my course is
Attract. Oh, I'll leave it at that.
I just started putting those out there. Actually, they're buying like one-on-one sessions with me virtually and in person. I think I would be lying to say if it doesn't help that I'm mildly attractive. But I think that they see my stuff online. They read my book.
I don't think people are booking appointments with astrology, bro. You ever heard of OnlyFans? You can do that shit. Get to the point.
makes sense.
For fucking,
And I think they also
she
want
probably has some good readings.
to. Here's what works for me. I am Virgo, so I'm very nurturing. I have a very feminine style, even though I'm very vertical in when I'm coaching, right? I don't waver. I'm very professional. I have tops up to here. I'm not playing that funny business. It's very much so the deal, right? But I think that they kind of are drawn to me because of my feminine energy. And so if someone's going to tell them you're fucking around, you need to leave your wife because she's cheating on you and you need to get over her, they maybe kind of want to hear it from someone who has like a feminine nurturing vibe versus some therapist who's like, yeah, it's probably time that you leave the wife because she's fucked some other guy for 5 years. Like, do you know what I mean?
Well, I guess that's if the woman has the nurturing energy. Some women don't. Surprisingly enough, like for doctors, even there's been doctors I've seen where they're actually had a really good bedside manner, and whereas some women doctors were just the opposite, very cold and collective. So it's a crapshoot. So anyway, that was that reading. Damn, I can't believe we spend that much time on that. But I wanted to read see what that reading was. She knows a lot of stuff. She's pretty good. I just thought this was gonna be a Western, because I was gonna say I don't really see the Scorpio shit with flow state, maybe a little bit in terms of, like I said, like trying to find the truth and whatnot. Well, other than that, I don't see it. But that's Vedic. NBC, as we talked about in Red Pill, Jason said that astrology is an excuse for bad behavior, but how them quoting the Bible as an authority to justify their actions seems hypocritical on their point. It pretty much is, It's like you don't have to like the Bible, but don't shit on it. Obviously, it's a great book, probably the greatest book ever, most popular book ever. You know, yeah, you don't have to necessarily shit on astrology unless you like just being a hater. If it's not your thing, you know, it is what it is. It's helped a lot of people or whatnot. Yeah. What's up, Vids? Lady Luck has a question. She says, I wonder what she would say about people with parents who have exactly the same date of birth, days, month. Well, yeah. Well, she'd probably say, like, unless they were born in the same place, the exact same, because that's the other component you're missing from that equation for your natal chart, your personality chart, is if they were born in the same location on Earth. But even if that's the case, there's twins that have the same chart, I guess you have to say. However, they're different though. Astrology is just your personality. It probably doesn't even encompass your whole personality. And then Miss Alexander is saying even that the Vedic even goes to your soul, so that's another component. These are templates to use like as overlays to put them to augment on your reality that you're experiencing now, to give you some clues and maybe on some things you can work on and things that are beneficial to you. I don't think nothing more, no less. It's a tool. Yeah. What is this? Yes, 20 minutes drive apart. What y'all talking about? What's up, Dogma? We're back at it. Yeah. Lady Luck's Aries sun, moon, and Pisces moon. Okay, that's where you got that mystical aspect to your moon, but you're very grounded in your Aries, in the here and now. Back to the horror. Studies suggest that we propose a psychological projective frame to be able to derive pleasure from being horrified. Yeah. Master Creator, you like those horror movies? I bet you do. Yeah. You like those horror movies for sure, I bet. Spooky season, huh? Yeah, one of the spookiest stories out there is that the Candyman. That Candyman story. You heard of that? Remember the movie Candyman? Chad, have you heard the movie Candyman? Let me know. Oh yeah, it was Shadow. Before we go there, Shadow was saying something about first Patrick was saying, what's your feeling about partial eclipse on Saturday, the 29th, another 11/5 day on the 885th day of the year? Partial eclipse. I mean, when I think of eclipse, I think about new moons and full moons, and anything dealing with the moon is dealing with things that are usually hidden at night. So a lot of times during these eclipses and full moon and new moons, we dive deep into things that are usually we try to keep hidden down, pushed down, because they ignite a lot of that trauma we had. So we form patterns to keep it down, and then these moon transits come like eclipse, and everything gets popped out, right? And if you're not aware and don't go looking inward, looking at, like, thinking about what does these things mean to me personally, on a personal level, you're going to be surprised and shocked and may have some chaos. But if you're ready for it and you've been doing the work, being introspective and social, you'll see great gains from these transits. Horror films always have a good sexy thought getting in it. Maybe that's probably why we like it too. Something about sex and terror. Look at the trapeze artist at the circus. She's all up there with no net, can die, right? Swinging through the air. Yet she's wearing like a onesie bathing suit, right? That's curving her, hugging her body and whatnot. Look at the faces of orgasms and terror from the head up, not the bottom. You don't know what's going on. You wouldn't know what was going on. Looks like the same. What's up, Sherelle? Good to see you. Good to see you, sis. Hello. Oh, Lady Flo's here. That's her. Okay. What's up, homies? She had a comment. What she said? Yes, I was not very impressed with it. It felt a lot like the. Oh, Candyman. I thought you were saying. Yeah. So no, Lady Flo, are you those triple water signs in Vedic or Western astrology? Yeah. I can see the Scorpio in you. I mean, a little I've seen of you, because you seem somewhat mysterious in the sense that, like, I mean, you show yourself well, I'll say you show yourself at important times, in a sense. It's like people who don't talk a lot, but when they do talk, because they don't talk a lot, their words hit harder. Yeah, I'll say that. Little I know about you. Okay. Oh, Vedic. Okay. All right. Yeah. So you got all that water in your chart for Vedic. I think I have a lot of fire in my chart for Vedic. Interesting. So let's get on this horror movies. Good to have you, though. Everyone, Mrs. Flo and everyone, Master Creator 23. He said, I like to sleep good night. So even if I watch a horror film, I tend to watch a lot of cartoons, other shit, to balance my brain pattern to get a good dream. That's smart, because when you go to sleep, you're literally programming yourself for what's going to happen, not only in your dreams, but the following day. That is why the great Neville Goddard says, before you go to sleep, you should review your day and take out the things that you don't like, that you did like, that happened during the day, and focus on the things you did like. So when you go to sleep, you're pre-programming your brain, so you have that continuity of consciousness when you wake up into getting what you want and having a peaceful, blissed out day. I think so. Yeah, good to see you too. Yeah, so these horror films, like I was saying, the Candyman, that was a movie that we all grew up watching. Oh, what's up, brother Ali? Funny you came up right there. And I know, like, because black folk could know how to tell some scary stories, right? And I know some of y'all, black or white or Asian or whatever, have done that, tried that Candyman, looking in the mirror, saying it like 5 times. But there's a lot of stories out there in our respective cultures that have mythology, that are like myths, but also real stories that happen. And some of the craziest happen off in the hood, and the one that we all know about is the one based off in 1992 in Chicago. Shout out to Special K and J, Chicago. What's up, Ozzy? Good to see you. Getting the party started out there down under. Yeah, so Candyman was in 1992. I was an 8th grader when that came out. But the lore of Candyman is a legend in itself. It's inspired by the great Clive Barker, writer, director of famous horror movies, and it's a short story about this killer in England, in his hood. It's called the Forbidden. And in the story, And in Clyde Barker's story, it's a story of an enslaved man who was murdered by an angry white mob after his relationship was exposed with a snow bunny, a white woman, right? Remember that? They show that in the film. And it's pretty graphic, man. That's something that happened a lot. People were murdered back in the day when they didn't even. It was alleged that one boy named Emmett Till made a cow call whistle at a white woman, and they murdered his ass brutally. And come to find out, he didn't even do the cat call, and they still murdered him. So in this Clyde Barker story, The Forbidden, this black artist who's is enslaved, gets murdered because he has an interracial relationship with a woman, and then his hands were sawed off, and he was covered with honey, and it led to his eventual death by bee stings. Bees are interesting to have in a movie because talk about the white mob, the mob mentality, hive mind, the hive mind. A lot of people have that one queen or king that they parrot from, that they take all their social cues from, and how to act and who to gang up on and who to praise, right? So the Candyman story, it was remixed by the African American director Bernard Rose, who made the tale the main character, the ghosts, haunt the Cabrini Green public housing development in Chicago, right? The projects, Cabrini Green, which was a notoriously active hood in the 80s, and especially in the 90s before they tore it down. So the kills to Candyman was in the projects, and where they put up the Cabrini Green housing projects is where his corpse was burned centuries earlier. And when he was being burned, he was taunted by children who threw candies at him. When he was burning. So this is probably why in the movie he taunted children when he was a ghost, and he threw candy back at him, and he had knives, and he had that hook of a hand, right? And if you said his name 5 times, you would see him in the mirror. Yeah. What's up, Jess? You had that your stream, man. I need to get over there. I keep saying that, fucking asshole. But it's good to have you right here. Lenny Luck, I overslept the other day. I like paranormal horror films, not the trashy ones. Yeah, paranormal one, yeah. A lot of the horror films, like Seven and whatnot, are very, whatchamacallit, cerebral. They make you think. Psychological thrillers. I think that's the name of them now. Lenny Luck with the comment, although watching can cause you stress, you can find learning-based benefits. Yeah, it can teach you how to get out of situations or work through situations. Maybe not necessarily the ones you see in the movies, because a lot of them are really complex and outer-worldly, but it definitely can cause you to use that part of your brain to help you problem solve. Yeah, the Candyman story is crazy because it's based on a couple true stories, we could say. There was an article that came out in the 80s about Ruthie Mae McCoy in Chicago, and it was called whatever. Who killed Ruthie McCoy? Because the events of Candyman, it's done in a surreal way, and it kind of seems like it couldn't have happened in real life. However, there's one story that suggests otherwise, and that's of Ruthie and her tragic murder. Supposedly, Ruthie was a lonely, mentally ill resident of the Cabrini Green housing projects in the south side of Chicago, and one night on April 22nd, 1987, April 22nd, the birthday of my son Ben. You know, Ben, this is for you, brother. Before I go there, it reminds me of Ben. I asked Ben this morning when I was taking him to school. I said, Ben, why do we like these scary movies, these horror films, and jump scare video games? And he said, Dad, as he was walking to class, as he was about to walk to class, took his helmet off from the motorcycle. He said, Dad, it's because they make the movies and the video games really cool. The images and the graphics are really cool, because they're fun. That's what he said, out the mouth of babes, huh? Yeah. Well, I'd love to be there, Jess. Thank you for the invite. Yeah, so Ben was like, Dad, yeah, they're fun, right? So on the night, shout out to Ben. So on the night of April 22nd, 1987, probably a terrified Ruthie, she called 911 to request help from the police. And she told the dispatcher that someone in the apartment next door was trying to come through her bathroom mirror. Shit. You hear that? She was saying someone's coming through her bathroom mirror. See the parallel with Candyman looking in the mirror? She said that they threw the medicine cabinet down and she was confusing the dispatcher who thought she must be crazy. I mean, I don't blame the dispatcher, right? And what the dispatcher didn't know is that Ruthie McCoy was right. There happened to be narrow passages between the apartments that allowed maintenance workers easy access. However, they also became a popular way for burglars to break in by pushing the bathroom cabinet out the wall, right? And let's go with the likes. Yeah, sub up too. I'm pretty close to monetization. We need about 35 subs. I already got the hours and whatnot. Yeah, hit up the buy me a coffee for a dono or a membership for unlimited or 8 video calls a month, basically, with yours truly, you know? Hit me up. There's the membership. There's the dono button, buy me a coffee. So, yeah, so you got this dude, he pushed through her medicine cabinet, Ruthie's medicine cabinet, and she's calling the dispatcher and doesn't believe her. And listen to this, like, supposedly a neighbor reported gunshots coming from Ruthie's apartment, and the police chose not to break down the door due to the risk of being sued by the residents. So they heard gunshots. There was reported gunshots by the neighbors, but the police didn't want to get sued, right, by a resident in the Cabrini Green housing projects. So when a building superintendent finally drilled the lock off the door 2 days later, they discovered Ruthie McCoy's body face down on the floor, shot 4 times. Tragedy, man. Yeah, not cool, man. Hey, thanks for sharing, Jess. That's cool. Thank you, Lady Luck, for that. Yeah. And the Candyman movie does contain elements of that sad tale. You can see it like when the first person the Candyman kills is a character named Ruthie Jean. When he goes through the mirror, Candyman goes through the mirror and kills her. So Ruthie McCoy, like Ruthie Jean in the Candyman movie, called the police only to die alone and without any help. And the sad thing about it is that Ruthie McCoy's death wasn't far from unusual in the Chicago public housing system. Yeah. There was a lot of poverty and crime in the Cabrini Green homes in the south side of Chicago. Yeah, man. That's a real horror story right there. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think we can learn from that story? What's up, Leopard Print? Yeah. Good to see you. Let me know what we think we can learn from these stories. And that's what's really important. What does it mean to you eternally? There's the link. Pin it. Pit, poop. So that's the Candyman story. There's other stories in the hood, especially in South Carolina. I don't know. Thanks, Shadow Buddha, for that. Buddha in the house. Yeah, send me a dono if you like. Yeah. I'll make your chat a priority. Get your question. We even can talk about whatever movie you like. I heard somebody talking about Sixth Sense. They like the plot twist. Yeah. Sure. In South Carolina, we have the Gullah Geechee people. In South Carolina, yeah, North Carolina, but mostly South Carolina, the Gullah Island. They're descendants of the slaves from the lower country in the southeast region of coastlands. And these Americans who are black, they mostly speak like a pidgin language that it's like a combination of African and Africanisms, that we could say, as well as English in there, of course. And a lot of their stories, they tell the tale of what they call hints or evil spirits who stalk the living because they have not accepted that they're dead. And it's said that they prey on naughty children in an attempt to inhabit their homes. And therefore, in the South, you'll see a lot of the houses in the Gullah Gullah region. They paint the house blue to ward off evil spirits and to protect the occupants of the home. And it's interesting how these people these hints, they didn't know they were dead. You know, I know you guys have probably heard stories. We've seen movies about like Sixth Sense, when the guy didn't know, Bruce Willis, he didn't know he was dead. That was the big plot twist, right? I was reading this story the other day where somebody was saying that their grandpa, they didn't know they were dead, and they said it was about 10 or so months ago. I'm going to read this from the Reddit. It says about 10 or paranormal on Reddit. About 10 or so months ago, their grandfather died, and it was a sudden death that resulted in a car crash, and he never knew what happened. And about 2 weeks or so later, they said, I had a dream. This is them speaking. He was sitting at the kitchen table. They saw me, and he asked me, where am I? What's going on? I looked at him and said, you're dead. And he responded with, oh, okay. He didn't really seem too surprised by the news. He went on to say that he keeps seeing this white light and that he doesn't know what it is, but that it keeps calling to him. I told him that it's a good place where his brother and mother are. That it's peaceful and full of love, and that we're waiting for him and would very much like to see him again. But then I told him in a very important way that it was his choice. He didn't have to go, and he could wait as long as he wanted. And he thought about it for a moment, and he said he was going to wait a while. I cried, and he started to make himself a comfortable home. And then I woke up. I truly believe I got to communicate with him after he died, and that he needed me to tell him that he had died. That's wild, man. Yeah. Interesting enough, that white light. We talked about this on this broadcast about the Gnostic view of a prison planet, how we're living in a prison planet, and there might be archons feeding on our souls like parasites as we're alive, and then when we die, quote unquote die, instead of leaving this cycle of karmic reincarnation, the white light that people see and their family calling them to the light is a trap, a soul trap to get you to come back down here so you can be fed on again. Metaphysical renewable energy. That's one theory. Oh, that's all good. I'm glad you're here, Gracie. You got a PayPal or a Vimeo? They do that in Taiwan. $2 that way if you want to get it. Yeah. I think I do have a PayPal. Buy Me a Coffee's the best because that's a good percentage. It's not like I think the percentage is like less than 5% it takes out. But PayPal's good. Not even better, right? But yeah, I appreciate all the dono. Shout out to Ruck Daddy, Ruckavelli with the big dono the other day. Oh, I can't even see it. Yeah, he gave me some cheddar. I'm gonna take that shit down. The big $5. And random fan too. Thank you, Ruck. Yeah, I think Alexander was saying I went there last fall. Gullah region. The river is wide. Was the first I counted it. Yeah. Yeah. The paranormal stories are wild. This one was crazy. He says, I heard my soul dream. Never thought I'd be the one posting here, but my time has come. A couple days ago, I was almost falling asleep when I started hearing voices and a lot of noises. Like I was in a room full of people. A woman was talking about a product or something, and she was in a business meeting, and there was a police siren in the background. Then I heard my soul screaming, "Could you let me talk?" And then I snapped out of it. Everything's quiet. No siren. Nothing. I was not asleep. I was in that state between wake and dreaming. It was like a radio station playing inside my head. I thought I was suffering with hallucinations and scheduled an hour with my physician. Then I told my sponsor, I guess, about hearing him screaming. He looked at me like I was crazy and I told him about his dream. Oh, significant other, yeah. He had a dream he was at the office with his coworkers, and everyone kept talking and not letting him speak. He screamed, and there was a siren in the background because a coworker had called the police on him or something. I was like, what? I heard him dreaming. I couldn't see anything. Just hear like a hallucination. Fuck. That's wild. She went into his dream. I know there's times like when I'm really like hugged up or spooned up with Miss NPC, I've definitely dreamt about her. I have this knowing that I've probably gone into the psychic realm of her mind or whatnot, her dream space, because I've seen people and experiences that seem very real, but they weren't mine, and I know they weren't mine. And I have a feeling, and she was in it. I have a feeling I was like hopping into that space. You know, I talked to her about it a couple times, and some stuff matched up. So I think there's something to be said about people you spend most of your time with, and things that you experience with them. Gracie Gray with a comment. NPC, I used to, oh my God, something to actually go through. It's amazing. Yeah. It is wild, huh, Leopard? 72. Shit, what is this, man? Craziness. Someone else, they said they had some hallucination. Have you guys had any hallucinations recently off Natty? Listen to this. Paranormal activity encounters. A man was literally killing someone. Okay, I'm currently 22, but as a kid, I used to live in a Texas apartments in Texas. I didn't really like living there since there was nothing to do. Literally nothing. And on a Sunday afternoon, on June 22nd, I decided to take a walk with my dog, Ripley, an Australian Shepherd. So we were walking. Everything is normal until I hear someone rush past me. I fall to the ground, being 9 years old, and I get a scrape on my knee. I see another man chasing after him, and I couldn't see, but he had a knife in his hand. He could have just killed me right then and there, but he didn't just he didn't really notice or care about me. And the victim, wait, let's say he could have just killed me right then and there, but he didn't really care to notice me. Him and the victim were relatively old to be living here, as mostly college students had lived there. I brushed off the scrape and walked away. I still watched from afar. I'm a curious person, so I just did that. But I deeply regret ever watching as the attacker pushed him to the ground. I saw a knife. It was rusty. I panicked, thinking I would be seen, so I hid. I could hear screams in agony, so he ran home. I locked myself in a room and for 4 days didn't come out. That's wild. Man. 4 days didn't come out, huh? They probably should have reported that to the police. Someone said that's crazy and wild, but that's not paranormal. That's some real horror. That is some real horror in the hood right there. Uh, what are they doing? You might like this one. Deceased grandpa saved baby's life. My grandpa died in 2002, and I was pregnant. It was so sad he didn't get to meet his great grandbaby. Anyway, I would say before we start there, it was the SEMA Alexander. Yeah, you know that story. It's true, isn't it? I would think so. I feel for him. That's really something really happening. Yeah, it is pretty tragic. Yeah, 5% is good numbers for buy me coffee. That does sound like a serial killer. The way they were so nonchalant about being seen. It definitely does have serial killer vibes to it. And there with the comments represent transformation. So it's eating a snake is deep transformation. Wow, there were snakes on a shit, the sperm and the DNA and the spark of life from our father, but the mother carries a seamy. Shout out to Anita Cuevas. Love you. Good die young. Huh? Here we go. Yeah, man, that hollow deck of the white screen and the avatar. Yeah. That that picture actually is my wife made that. Uh that eye is that's Ben. He had walking pneumonia for the last couple of weeks and he was coughing so hard that he busted a blood vessel in his eye. And that's the aftermath of that shit. And that's probably why like when they showed him on the video his eye fit it morphed in perfectly. Yeah. Yeah, it looks really bad. I felt so bad for him. The dude was coughing up lung. And he was coughing up so high that so hard that like a hemorrhage in his behind his eyeball right there. And that's what that was the inspiration for that um avatar like that. Yeah. So I was saying, let me see. Yeah, so and they yeah, people talking about their loved ones, huh, that passed. Yeah. It's a real deal, man. Yeah. So that, yeah. So we were talking about the bog lady, right? Uh, there's also dancing devils who are, they're not really spirits, but people that dress up like them. We see them like in carnival and carnival celebrations a lot in like Brazil and also the islands like Trinidad and all those places. Those are, see, people in like other countries compared to the Western countries, especially the U.S. They're kind of like more. More have a relationship with the other side, aka death, than people in the West who try to try to push that shit away. You know, you can even look at the evidence, like what we do to the bodies, how we embalm them and try to make them look alive. You know, but in a sense, that's like sounds like a racket from the funeral home. Where in fact, with most other places, they either just bury you or cremate you. New Orleans seems to be definitely in touch with the death. Like they have a party when you die. Basically, part of it, the grieving. Yeah. So there's also the I don't know if you ever heard of Big Liz. She's mostly known in the Chesapeake Bay. She's a ghost, and the lore is that she was a large woman who was enslaved on a plantation near a swamp, and the legend says that her slave master was a cruel man, and he ordered Liz to carry a chest full of his possessions to the swamp. And after digging a deep hole and placing the chest inside, the man took out a sword and sliced her head off while her back was turned. And since then, swamp visitors claim they experience odd sightings and chilling presence when they're in that area. And they say that Big Liz haunts that swamp. Yeah. Do you want to? Should we summon Big Liz? Do you have stories? Do you have stories of like places where you used to go when you're younger and you're in your town or your city that had lore as like a paranormal spot or off limit spots that had some scary stories, but you still went anyway when you were bored on those Friday nights? Uh-huh. I don't know. I mean, anybody ever encountered Big Liz? Somebody has this story though. Maybe it's connected. I think it might be connected to Big Liz. Let's see. So this is from the paranormal subreddit. It says, so I worked in the corrections and I had things I can't explain, but now it's starting to freak me out. So I'm using they're using the throwaway account because I'm a CO in the Deep South. I just entered my 7th year working in my facility. I've always been semi-religious, but nothing serious. Just your typical small town church kind of thing. However, I work in a big city jail, and I've had some minor things happen over the years that don't really make me think ghosts, but it creeps me out nonetheless. Some of these small experiences include random footsteps from around my control room when all the inmates are locked down in voices in places that are no longer in use. However, this isn't about any of those minor experiences I just mentioned. It's about this encounter experience from around a week ago. And I talked to a couple close friends and some guys at work, and we can't seem to figure it out. And I tried to wrap my mind around it the best I can, but I'm honestly at my wit's end. Some might think I'm crazy, but let's see. So might as well post it to see what sticks, and if someone can perhaps help me and reason with me, whatever happens. For context, the floor I work on is typically a floor reserved for mid-security violent inmates. This would include robbery suspects, domestic violence, assault, etc. And typical night for me is to come in and lock down all the inmates for the nights and then conduct what we call a standing head count. And basically I come in and put eyes on every inmate on the floor. And if my roster says I have 170 inmates, I have to physically count 170 inmates. Well, the facility is currently going under modernization upgrades. This includes new doors, locks, day space, table, furniture, and most importantly, cameras. On my floor, all the pods are full to the capacity, except for C block. This pod is currently locked out, meaning no inmates are to be housed in the pod until all upgrades are done and in place. And they've been working on it for about 3 weeks now. And they put in all the new doors and locks and cameras, and the camera feeds are shown on a small screen inside the control room of the floor with the cell number placed in the bottom right hand corner of each cell. So I shouldn't have to worry about counting in C block, as there's no inmates in C block. Right. Well, 1 week ago, after finishing my head count, I came back to the control room and do my usual routine. Pull up Chrome and just browse the internet until I have to do my hourly check to make sure no one is committing self-die. Around midnight of May 2nd, 2023, I finished doing another check and sit down in the control room. And as I go to sit down, I take a glance at the screen with all the cameras. In cell block 4, in C block 4 cell, I swear I saw a person standing up in the center of the cell, facing outward towards the door of the cell. I do a double take, and of course nothing is there. Okay, maybe I saw someone in B block standing in their cell, or the cam froze for a second. About 30 minutes later, I sit up in my chair as I'm putting my phone down. This time again, I see someone standing in C block, cell 4. And this time I know that it's the cell because I'm looking at the number. The cell door is wide open, as are all the doors in C block. So it's for sure that cell. I full tilt sprint into that block and look up into 4 cell, a cell 4. Nothing and no one. I can begin to think that I'm seeing things or the camera is somehow fucking up. I put in a report to our electric maintenance department. They say they'll look into it. I come back the next night and the report states all wiring is fine and the camera feed is in fact linked to C block 4 cell. After going home and thinking about it, I'm convinced to myself that I was wrong somehow, and I was just me being tired. Again, some process comes and goes. Same process comes and goes. Lockdown, head count, Back to the control room to wait. I'm now glancing every once in a while at C block 4 cell. Nothing appears. Midnight comes and goes, and I think, okay, yeah, it was me. Well, then 2 a.m. rolls around, and I do my check, sit down back at the control room. Again, all the doors in C block are all the way open. And these doors are not light. They are big metal doors, easily 60 to 70 pounds. That's when cell 4 slams shut. And then after it is shut and now locked, it sounds like it's starting to be kicked by a horse. Like someone smashed it right on the back end of a full-grown horse. I look on the camera screen and all the cameras in that pod are just blinking on and off. I go to the block, and as I'm going up the stairs towards the door, more doors start to shut. From 6 to 5 to 3 to 2 to 1. At this point, I'm done. I ran out of that block, shut the door, and called for a supervisor in maintenance. We checked the footage of the event on the supervisor's computer in his office, and of course, none of them show anything. At around 2 a.m. mark, they all just go to no connection with our local server at the headquarters building across the street. Maintenance did say it was definitely not the lock, but it did look like someone had tried to kick the door off its hinges because the door frame itself had chipped paint after having just freshly been painted. I scoured incident reports back 5 years, and I couldn't find anything about any violent death or just anyone dying in general on this floor. That being said, my department has sealed reports in the past where if you are under lieutenant, you won't be able to read the report. So I'm not sure. I'm still working on this floor. They're on the last few days of fixing the C block, and then they'll move to D block. They still have 3 more blocks after D block to do, so I'm a little concerned of what's happened once those are empty and not in use. Things in C block seem to have calmed down as nothing major has happened since last week. Doors still move, and I've had 2 shut, but I'm not like that night a week ago. I put in for vacation towards the end of May, so I'm hoping time away is gonna help, and hopefully it'll be fixed. But this has turned me from a non-believer to a skeptic on the low end to a possible believer on the high end. I just don't think the AC could blow a 60-pound door shut, nor could it cause the door to be hit that violently. If anyone has any similar experience, has any ideas, please let me know. All I can say is I feel especially bad for whoever gets cell 4 and C block when the renovation is done. Spooky shit. Probably with all that violence and anger, energy collected in prisons over the years, it's no wonder there's stories like that. It's probably not even being haunted by a particular person, but by...
My mom was pregnant at that time. After 9 months of pregnancy, my mom gave birth to my new sister, and I rushed to the hospital to see her. She was really cute. Unfortunately, my dad couldn't see her in person, but I did a video call. He was working in another country. My dad cried with joy when he saw her. After my mom got treatment, the neighbors were waiting for her to congratulate her, and my mom's brother, my uncle, was staying with us. During the celebration party, this old lady suddenly approached my mom and congratulated her.
Whoa, where did she
come
come from?
Surprised at first, but said thank you without really thinking very much. Later, all the family members ate dinner at night and went to bed after.
They just said, perfect timing. In the video, they just said, this lady just showed up, was like, out of nowhere, a Sheba Alexander in the cuts. What's going on?
Oh, not
How's it
much.
going?
I was just gonna share how I think it's weird again because there's 27 nakshatras in Vedic astrology, which is 27 different moon signs basically. And you
Wow.
chose to talk about the paranormal. You've done this before, I told you about. You're
Mhm.
choosing to talk about the paranormal when the moon is in Shravana, which only lasts for a day. And it is the most psychic, paranormal, stranger things, all that kind of stuff is associated with this particular one. There's two other ones that are strong in that
Holy shit.
too, but it's not as strong as Shravana. And I'm like, are you kidding? So, like, when you think of Shravana, it's like 11 off of Stranger Things and her psychic ability.
Uh-huh.
So, I thought I would jump up and
No, thank you.
I would tell you that one because you've done this a few times and it's wild. But the other one I was going to say with the
That's great.
paranormal experience was when my aunt was dying. I was in a cabin out of state with my kids visiting family, and I didn't know she'd gone on hospice. And this bird, which it's a cardinal, reminds me of my mom who'd passed, was tapping on my window in the morning, waking me up 2 mornings in
Uh-huh.
a row. And then the second day, I thought to film it, and I recorded the bird pecking at my window, which was wild. And then later on in that day, before I got the call from my uncle that she was on hospice, there were tons of birds. My cousin remembers it, where they just attacked the window. It was crazy. It was all these
Wow.
cardinals, like my mom was trying to send me a
Uh-huh.
message. And I said that to my cousin. It's like, my mom is around me big time because there's a bazillion, and that's my mom's sister who was going on hospice. So
Mhm.
I got a phone call within an hour from my uncle, and he told me she was in hospice. So I had to leave my kids and fly to see my aunt and say goodbye to her at hospice.
Mhm.
And the other strange paranormal experience with that I had recorded on my phone was that the first night I got there, the clock in the hospice hospital room started going crazy. The second night, I thought to film it, and it landed. It landed right at 2:16,
Mhm.
which I was like 2:16. It went for like 3 to 4 minutes of just going nuts, and then it finally
Mhm.
stopped at 2:16. And then it dawned on me at 2:16 in the morning. I was like, oh my God, 2:16, February 16th is her birthday. And
Yeah,
I
I was
was
about to
like,
say
that's
February 16th.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
2:16, that's her birthday. And so then
Shut
I
up.
looked at my uncle and I was like, we're not here
What
alone.
the
And
hell?
so we ran over to her bedside and we're like, who else with you? And then we started saying, like, my grandmother and
Uh-huh.
and Andy was her best friend who just passed 2 years before. And I didn't know there was any association with clocks and him until I went
Yeah.
back to their house and we were in the sunroom. And I was like, where did this clock come from? It wasn't here a few years ago when I visited y'all. And it was from him. And I was like,
Mhm.
that's who was in the room with us. But I had recorded that one. It was just wild. But
Wow. You had the
yeah,
clock
I
going
don't know.
crazy,
Yeah, I have
and
that
then it
filmed
stopped on the
on her
260.
birthday. On her birthday, 2:16. It was wild.
That
Yeah.
that proves it. That's easy proof, bro. The guy made it. Andy made
Mhm.
it so simple for you guys. Like,
Yeah.
duh, come on. It's like
Yeah, and
just a
I
just a
didn't
clock.
know the
Yeah.
clocks were associated with him with them. And I was
Uh-huh.
like, and it was only on like the third day where I'm like, I need a shower. I'd been at hospice for like 3 days. I'm like, I really gotta have a shower. So I went to their
Yeah.
house and I was like,
Yeah.
wow. But the only like scary one that I've ever experienced was the Bell Witch one, and that's one of the most studied or like longest hauntings that they have recorded.
Hmm.
And I think it's
You
a
tell us about
cave.
it?
It's on the border of Tennessee and Kentucky, I believe. And
Uh-huh.
it might be in Kentucky, but it's recorded of this family that was. There's YouTube videos about it, but the family was spooked out, and like there were people who died. They were driven insane by this
Hmm.
ghost that lived in a cave, and the kids would see it, and other people saw it and had to go protect the family because I guess the father was a preacher. or
Hmm.
something. And so they were well known and well loved, but they slowly over a period of time started deteriorating, and eventually the father died. But
Mm.
kind of like the Candyman, you're supposed to say, I hate the Bell Witch or whatever.
Yeah.
And the few times I've driven around that area, like the GPS, and there's something that doesn't, it just messes with the frequency. And so I've
Okay.
gotten lost at night there, and it was very, very scary. And then another time I remember driving around there and just telling my kids about it and how creepy it was. And then we
As you're
had,
driving around.
yeah, we were driving
Oh
around
my
that
God! Come on,
area,
Mom.
and it just all of a sudden
It's
the
scary.
GPS, nothing would work on our phones. Like the
Jesus.
electromagnetic frequency around that area just gets messed with. It's crazy. So that's like my only kind of semi scary one, but I don't know. I mean, we grew up with scary stories all the time, so I don't
Is,
know.
dude, is that a can we attribute that? What do you think, to an actual person in terms of the witch or the energy? Just like how that people were saying about the prison cell block C, how
Yeah.
like that necessarily must be like accumulation of all the negative energy. Do you think that's with the witch over there, or is it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's because there's so many caves. There's Mammoth Cave is the world's
Uh
largest
huh.
cave system, and it's up there in Kentucky, and it goes out all over. And I think that there underneath or in the cave system is a certain energy, and it's probably there's Native American burial mounds there as
Yeah.
well. That's like
Right.
sacred, and they don't want other people disturbing that area. And so I just feel like that probably shouldn't have people living there. But yeah,
Yeah. That would
that's
make
just my
sense. It's their right. I mean, just like not just because they're Native American, but just anyone. Like, if you were there first and you have a sacred burial, you stay the fuck away. Really,
right,
right?
right, right,
So it
right.
would make sense that they would do what all they can to deter you from being there. From
Yeah,
being there, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I felt like
Wow.
that in Alaska once around like certain areas that I'm like, this is sacred. We're not supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need
Yeah.
people living there really, because it's just it feels too it feels too pristine, not, and it's like there's something about that that makes it where I don't know, people shouldn't be there, and you should just respect that quality
Yeah.
of the vibration of whatever it is. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, but that's just how I feel. I'm
Did you?
part Native American.
Oh, yeah. Then you're definitely genetically called to it, or you have to resonate with that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Mayaland, Mexico, like the
Yeah.
Yucatan?
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah. I
even
went
ever
to
been in
the
those what they call centros, like those big um underground watering holes? Like people jump into, like
yeah.
these people used to
Yeah.
literally jump into them or kill themselves
Yeah,
in them.
I opted not to go on that. I opted to go on a Jeep tour instead because it felt wrong to like go down in those caves where the what it felt unsafe too, but it didn't feel like a place I was called to. But yeah, I
Right.
went to like Tulum and stuff like that and saw the
Hmm.
pyramids, and that
Yeah.
was really neat. But I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I don't have any desire to swim underwater caves and stuff. It just creeps me out. It's
Yeah. It is. It is very creepy. There's something about enclosed spaces. There's like, I think there's a phobia for it, where it's kind of like liminal things, like where like the huge spaces, especially with water, that some
yeah.
folks have. But this
Yeah.
place where we went to, it was right. It was in the same grounds. It was very close to the what they call it, Chichen Itza pyramid
Oh
in
yeah, that's the
Cancun.
one, Chichen Itza.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
the
that's
serpent pyramid.
PTSD. Yeah, I did go to Chichen Itza. It was really weird because I had left the country only a couple of times, and then
Hmm.
Chichen Itza. I happened to be there when this, and the two times I went with the ex. The first time was in Italy, And
Hmm.
I went up to Florence, and I remember sitting at this long table, and I'm like, that woman looks very familiar. And then when the husband leaned over, I was like, oh my gosh, that's John Benet Ramsey's parents.
Oh,
And
I get the chills.
I was
Why
at
you
the
do this to
table
me?
with them. And so I saw
This
these
is not a
American,
dream, right?
no, that's reality. And so
Oh
I saw
shit.
these American tourists that were taking pictures of it.
Uh
And
huh.
then the next year I went to Tulum, and we were down there at the same time that this father in Seattle or the Washington area had killed his wife and his two children and was hiding out at the beaches of Tulum. He was there at the same time we were, and
Uh huh.
tourists from the same cruise ship the next day after we left found him and turned him into authorities. But I was like, okay, that's 2 times we have traveled internationally, and we
Hmm.
have the theme of familial homicide. So I'm not traveling with you anymore overseas. So, I'm just not,
Oh
I'm not,
man,
yeah, no.
familiar homicide on vacation
Familial. Yeah.
overseas in
Yeah.
the
So
with under the Sagillet,
what's that?
far off places under the Sagittarius chamber,
I
traveling
don't
up
know
far
what
off.
it is. I took
What?
my sign, and I'm like, the third time, no, not going to be a third time. We didn't travel anymore overseas. I mean, I'm probably sure I'd be fine by myself, but I
Yeah,
just like there
that
was some,
combo, huh?
yeah, there was some bad energy there.
Uh,
So I'm just like, yeah, I believe in taking the signs and just like reading the room
yeah.
and not pushing your luck.
Well, this is your chance. This is what got you over there, and I highly respect you. What
That's sweet.
is
Thank you.
absolutely? What's really going on, Ashima Alexander? Like, are we? Is this a simulation, or are there so-called elites like trying to control us? Are we light be what like super kind of gloomy, but windy and just beautiful. This amazing shit. Like,
That's
yeah,
beautiful. Yeah,
yeah.
I've had dreams of Ireland too. That's
Yeah.
incredible. I
It's
love,
like the first place I
yes.
always want to go. I haven't been there yet, but that's the first place where I knew about travel. Like, I want to go there. I want to
That's
see that.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want to go there too. That's amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I want to go
The
see the
music.
pyramids too. There's
Yeah,
pyramids in Scotland underground that I
right.
just
The
found out
mountains and
about.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. And I'm like,
yeah.
there's pyramids there. There's pyramids in Tulum. There's pyramids
Mm-hmm.
in Egypt. There's pyramids in Vietnam. And it's
Everywhere.
incredible, like how many
Yeah,
pyramids are all around the world. And I just find that, like how
yeah.
are they not related? Like what is that? Like what is that about?
Yeah, there has to be some relation. We were talking about this. I always say that with the last broadcast. Yeah, because it's always this continuous same conversation about what's really
Yeah.
going on. We were
Yeah.
talking about how, yeah, like the Atlantis lore is just we think it's just it's a system or civilization that's broken up all over the place, but they're under the in general it's the same meta narrative, meta structure. Like there was the
Mhm.
Katamaya, like the Mayans over there, and then the China Mayans, the Chinese Maya, as the
Oh
Mayans would
yeah, yeah,
say,
yeah,
then the
yeah.
Egyptian Maya, yeah,
Mhm.
and then of course there are in America the Mounds and whatnot, and the Druids
Yeah.
and all that. Yeah, yeah,
That stuff's
uh,
amazing. I'm gonna.
yeah.
I just talked to an elderly neighbor this afternoon, and he's gonna take because there's a place around here where I live that is it's got an old Native American red circle, which I think is a
Mm-hmm.
sundial, and it's like
Mm,
I think it's about 1300 to 1500 years old, but
mm-hmm.
it's on private property. And my grandfather took me there when I was a kid, but I've always wanted my kids to see it and they've never seen it. And he's like, I know the people, I'll take you. And I'm so excited about that because there's so much that they knew that we thought they were primitive, but
Right.
I think they knew more than we give them credit for, and
Yeah, I think their mindset and focus and stuff would actually, if they wanted to, they could like clean up on our reality right now, our current time. It's just
sure.
that they didn't have to focus on the stuff that we did, so they were able to cultivate those other things. Just like I
Yeah.
think we could adapt. I think we could adapt their lifestyle. I have the feeling that it would be harder for some of us in
Oh
general
yeah. Yeah.
for us to adapt to them. However, I think those people, because of like true grit and having to be self sufficient and doing for
Mhm.
self, that they would be okay here. But who's to say they would want to? But yeah,
Yeah.
I want to honor where we're at today and
Yeah.
how our ancestors got us here to where we are. There's a
Right.
reason for it. It's special. With that said, you don't want to be an elitist in the sense that like this is the pinnacle of what it is. I mean, dude, the our ancestors were doing amazing things too.
They
You know?
really were. They were
Yeah.
doing incredible things. And I was actually talking to my oldest who happened to visit me today. And I was like, there's an energy force, like we were talking about Nash's game theory and
Mm-hmm.
like the different structures, like almost, like the pyramid, the Roman hierarchy structure is a source of like how they distribute power. There's one source on top, and then it trickles down, which is great for a military structure. But when you
Right.
look at other ways like Greek democracy or even like Jesus with his 12 disciples that were all equal, that's a group thing. And I was talking about
Mm-hmm.
Or not Graham, but Nash's game theory about how like you have 10 guys in a room that all want one woman, but if
Mm-hmm.
you have like distributing that, they all get what they want, which is a partner,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And that makes more sense. And I told my
Right.
son, I was like, the problem is we've lived so long in this structure that's a hierarchy, power driven scarcity mindset where there's
Mm-hmm.
limited resources. And so everybody is fighting for that one thing. And
Yeah.
unlike
That
with
beautiful girl.
yeah, but if you come from an abundance mindset, there's more inside of us than we've even remotely begun to
Of
tap
course.
into with regards to healing and regenerating. And I was telling him about the yogis in like India and stuff who can live to be 120 years old and stuff, and that they're constantly regenerating the cells in their bodies by the way that they meditate, and that disconnection from, you know, all of the external chasing things, that there's like a balance between looking externally and then looking internally. But I told him the greatest war you'll ever fight's the one with the person in the mirror, because
Yes.
that person is the one who stands more in the way of you being content with your life here than anybody else. You know, that's just how I view it. So
Absolutely. That's the real competition right
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yeah, you against
always.
yourself.
I like
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey. He said that I'm always chasing the guy I'm going to be in 10 years. I was like,
Mm.
that's a really good
Good,
way
look
of
good.
looking at it. Yeah.
My Scorpio brother, right there,
Yeah,
Matthew
he's cool.
McConaughey.
All right,
Super
all right,
cool.
all
Yeah.
right.
All right, all right. He's the type of person. He's like what I was listening to yesterday. B Dell, he was talking about the chosen people, and with this guy named Red Pill, who's been around for years in this the Black consciousness sphere, whatever, and him and his twin brother, Blue and Red Pill, and like they were talking about how what they think the chosen people are is like people who can assimilate and be able to navigate whatever the current time is and be able to speak to multiple types of people, not just one, you know, engage with them and stuff. And they use the word that usually is seen as a negative thing, you know, calling someone a chameleon, you
Oh,
know,
chameleon's
but
amazing.
they're amazing though. I was thinking about like
Yeah.
chameleons are amazing because they can, you know, they adapt to anything and they do it with such flair and
Yeah,
some of them are
fluidity. I love
fluidity and
that.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, thinking of that metaphor. It's kind of true. It's like you want to still be true with yourself. However, there's got to be some type of social lubricant with people, you know, and accepting them for who they are and what they are. It doesn't mean you have to literally, you know, like compromise something that's really important to you,
Hmm.
you know. But it's just about being more open, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, we're all here for different reasons. And
yeah, that's true.
in some people's narrative, you're meant to
Be
play the
rigid.
part of the good person, and the other people's narrative, you're meant to play the part of the bad person, and you're
Uh,
not supposed to be attached to either one, because you're
hmm
supposed to just know who you are, and sometimes you have to move the force in a way that I guess is, you know, by the bad cop, good cop scenario. And so
Yeah.
I try to tell my kids, I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, that was an exercise I also did with them when they were little, was that I would play the bad guy so that they learned how to organize themselves as a group of people, a tribe, for when I'm not here. You know, how are they connected? How do they work together? How do they build together? How do they relate together? You know, and
hmm
sometimes I have to put myself in the bad person role so that they unite more as a family.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a chameleon that I had to become, though, for them to
To
hone their
see it.
own social skills of looking out for one another when they leave the house. You know,
Yeah.
because I'm like, when you're in here, yeah, you're all individuals, but when you leave, you represent, you know, your entire tribe and your family, and you should be unified. You could fight inside
hmm
the walls of this home, but if
hmm
you're bullying your brother or something on the bus in order to impress your friends, you're definitely going to have a problem at home, you know.
Yeah. Exactly.
But
I
that's
don't even
like the
like it.
chameleon.
It is. I don't even like it when my dogs do it. Like I have my dogs right here, the pack on the
Uh-huh.
in the background. Like the sometimes the youngest one, the girl will bully her brother, the middle one in the middle.
Right.
And it's like don't do that in public. It's one thing when you play and fight at home, but like don't do that in public.
Yeah.
You can't. You have to be
Yeah.
united front. You got to be
Yeah.
united front out here. Now,
Yeah.
shout out to Cynthia in the house. I saw you.
Yeah,
What's
I
up,
love her.
Cynthia?
She's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a beautiful testimony. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
That
thank
was
you.
earlier. Yeah.
She's cool. I like her.
Super cool. Yeah. I thought of her when I was talking about the Texas apartments with that short story where someone said that they literally saw someone getting murdered about to be murdered when they were living in Texas apartments. Cynthia was telling a couple months ago a story about how when she either when she graduated high school or was still in high school, she got her own apartment with her friend in
Hmm.
Texas. It was like the party house or something. And come to find out, there was like some murderer
Oh,
that used to go
wow.
to their house party. They didn't know at the time.
Really?
Yeah,
There was a murder at their house party?
yeah. Like I guess trying to remember. Like he
That's
came to a couple of
wild.
their parties.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah,
Yeah. The average
yeah.
person encounters 8 serial killers in a lifetime.
Damn,
I know, right?
damn.
That's wild.
That's crazy. It's probably gonna go up too, huh? Unfortunately,
Yeah, I
before it
don't
goes
think
down.
so. I don't
You don't
know. I
think
mean, I
so?
just no, I try to be like I don't know. I try to like be more optimistic. I think part of like the profiling things that we've learned and the way that I'm reading a really good book now called The Anthropology of Childhood. And it's really good
Okay.
because you know, part of the structure is that we've turned into a neonocracy, which is where it's more child centered, where the child is like, there's more effort put into child rearing and more awareness than we've ever had most in the history of humanity, or at least the last, you know, few hundred to few thousand years. It's been,
Now I dig
well,
that definitely.
yeah, it's more
After
been,
seeing some of the stories about from Simple History Channel, where
yeah,
some of the grotesque torture methods and stuff.
yeah.
For example,
I mean, children
we
were
co-
like they're just there's horrific stories about children that we don't talk about in the West, about
yeah,
like in London, like how kids just used to be left
the
out to
factory
die.
workers.
Yeah, it's horrible. And like even in
Yeah.
the River Thames in like the 1800s, you had a person taking the bodies out of the river from people who'd unalived themselves, you know?
Uh
And
huh.
so those kind of things are things we don't really consider, but insofar as what we know psychologically about what goes into the profile of a serial killer and their upbringing in childhood and the neuroticism that goes
Uh huh.
on, we're much more aware nowadays of like how that operates. So when someone is creating a psychopath, it's not as much in a vacuum as what it used to be, is what I
I
guess
see.
I would say. Before
Hmm.
you could get away with that, and now everything is, I feel bad for my kids. Everything is on film. But I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. But some ways it's kind of good because I don't want to say it's more policing because I don't necessarily believe in external policing forces. I believe in raising
Hmm.
children to police themselves.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you still have a lot of people looking out for them. But yeah.
Yeah. I think it's the kind of the cameras are a reminder of the fact that you already watched. I wish some of us already have had that feeling.
I
I don't know.
had
I
that
guess I'm
feeling
talking
my whole
about
life. Yeah. Hmm.
metaphysically or whatever.
I never
I
felt
mean,
alone. It was
yeah.
sometimes it would creep me out too. I'm like, I don't want to like have
Mhm.
this feeling of all these other people being. I don't know how to explain that. It's
It's
super
just
creepy.
it just might be you and another being, but like I like the visuals and aesthetics of the movie Enter the Void. Where have you ever seen that one before?
No, I
Enter
haven't
the Void.
actually. Uh-uh.
It follows this young man who's living in Japan as an expat who gets murdered as he's like on acid, and it shows how and he was being talk. His friend was talking to him about the Tibetan Book of the Dead right before he got murdered and the bardos and stuff. And his
Wow.
consciousness literally leaves his. It's a crazy movie because it starts off in the first person view, which I'd never seen before for a movie. I don't think it's ever been done until then. It's like a video game, like first person view. And then when he dies, you can see his consciousness like floating away, seeing people, like you would imagine a ghost would. But then it gets
Mhm.
to a point where he goes into the light of a fixture and he starts rewinding his life and he's watching his life from the third person.
Oh wow,
And this whole
that's
time,
really cool.
it's really interesting, huh? Concept, huh?
Yeah, yeah. It reminded me of when I was about 4 years old and I had a near death experience. You know how like they have like SIDS and stuff, and
Yes, the
I
babies,
just
huh?
remember being in my bed and leaving my body and floating around and seeing my parents sleeping in their room and seeing my brother in his room and just like
Hmm.
I remember thinking, I need to go back to my body or I'm not going to be able to. And I was
Damn.
like, okay. And so I did. And as soon as I got back in my body, I woke up screaming because I couldn't breathe, because I quit
Right.
breathing. And so,
Right.
but
Right.
like I was outside of my body looking in.
That's a
And I just always remembered that. And so I guess maybe from that experience, I've always had like one foot in this reality and another one
yeah.
in another reality, but I just never knew how to articulate it or
Yeah.
why. I thought everybody else had that, and they did. They don't. I guess not.
No, Ashima. Ashima, you're the temperance card with the angel, 1 foot in the river, 1 foot on land.
Oh,
That's what
I
I
like
see, right?
that. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's actually a epic, beautiful take on what SIDS is, because really people don't really kind of put their foot on it, huh? Their finger on it, right? What causes them to die, and
Oh, yeah.
that could be just a baby, just astral trap, or well, I don't know what you call it. I'll say astral traveling out the body a little too long,
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I
you
was
know,
hearing. Yeah.
because y'all were we were on the other side not too long ago, if you think about it,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Babies have
yeah,
some unique perspectives.
yeah.
Yeah.
Comment from Gracie Gray. She said, I enjoy listening to Shima speak about this. You got a lot of
Oh,
fans.
thank you. Yeah. This is a cool topic, and I find it just fascinating again that you've happened upon this topic on this
That's a
particular
trip.
night. Yeah, you did that before. You've done that a few
Yeah.
times, and I'm like, wow, how does he do that? It's wild.
Maybe because I have a weird dichotomy in the sense that I do want to see these things like paranormal things, but I never really see them. And but then maybe because I'm a skeptic at heart, so that's why I'm able to
What is
I
a
didn't know about
skeptic?
this thing. Is it someone who doesn't that wants to see like concrete proof or something?
What is concrete?
Hmm. Everything that's considered real in the mainstream narrative, the consensus reality.
Mainstream narrative. Who wrote that narrative?
It's actually probably more likely it's a mass hallucination that we all agree on.
I don't know. I mean, I just know that
Uh,
like someone wrote the narrative, and then a whole bunch of other people bought the narrative, and I just never understood that, because I just like I said, I had the near death experience, and then I had a lot of death in my childhood, and so I just never really. I'm like, everybody's pretending. I felt like everybody was pretending most of my life, and I still, to a large, except when we had the lockdowns. Then I realized, oh, the people pretending don't know how to react now. Now that everything's turned upside down, you know, that everything was turned upside down, and then it's just kind of wild. So then I was like, oh, they kind of understand my reality now to a degree, because I've
yeah,
never really understood, that reality of why everyone would do something just because everybody else. I mean, I do to a certain extent. If you go along with the tribe, you will survive. But at a
yeah.
certain point, if you
There's
drink the
certain things.
Kool-Aid
No,
that the tribe is drinking, you will die. So there's like
it'll be a mass
a
die off.
balance. Yeah, you have to figure that out for yourself, like what the balance is.
It's like it's like surviving the mass ice age or the pole shift. Well, there's probably been cataclysmic events that have happened that have killed off most of the population, but obviously everyone alive now, that our ancestors made it, or were the smart ones or the lucky ones or both. And
Right. Yeah.
and that was, I
Yeah.
think that was one of them. I'm sad to say, like it's still very young in that narrative of like what those so-called medicines side effects are down the years, down the line.
Oh, that part. Yes, it's very true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yeah. No.
yeah. It was wild to see people just hop on your right and just do that. But then it made me think about in other instances where I hopped on the bandwagon without even thinking about it.
As have I.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had to yeah, I had some very bad experiences with that I'm not going to go into it tonight, but it
Uh-huh.
was a way of preparing me, and to a certain extent I did feel like, you know, I was preparing to a certain extent for what the rest was going through during that
Mhm.
time, and I was already 12 years ahead of it. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is what I said was going to happen, you know, but I said it like long before,
Yeah.
insofar as, you know, certain things that did happen. And another part of me is like, well, okay, I don't, at least a lot of people were waking up to realities that some of us had already experienced. And so that was kind of validating, but it was just kind of like, I don't, that's what I mean. Like, what is someone skeptical of? Like, what does
Mhm.
skeptic mean? Because I mean, I think I'm skeptic on certain things too. I'm very
Yeah.
skeptical of people who try to say that logic is the end all be all, when I don't think that there's a whole
I
lot
don't
of
think so either.
our civilization is fundamentally based on logic. I mean, there's, if that were the case, then
Yeah.
we do a lot of dumb things, you know. But
Yeah.
I think it's a mixture. It's a mixture of, you know, what's our sensory input, what's
It's
our
yeah.
tribal input, what's our emotional state, what is our
Yeah.
reasoning, and what's our intuition telling us. And all of those things combined make the human life, you know.
Right. I've heard these theories about especially logic and reasoning and how people
Yeah.
say they take pride in their logic and reasoning and intellect, and especially from, like I said, like I used to, listen to a lot of the quote unquote black consciousness
Hmm.
community, and a lot of their things they would talk. Some of the gatekeepers would talk about like how you don't need reason. You need to go with your instincts and ancestors, and you have to go with your gut. Very we could say very, like we talk about native and aboriginal stuff, the stuff, and they was like talk down, not talk down, but they wouldn't prioritize reason and logic. And it's funny, but and then on the other side of it, like people like like I'll just generalize, the ortho bros or debate bros,
Oh,
they pride
yeah.
themselves in the intellect and the in logic, right, and reasoning and whatnot. It's like
Pride
people
goes
like,
before the fall.
right, like people double down. It's like on one end, the brothers were like, nah, you don't need logic and intellect. You need to do intuition and feeling. That's your that's your sweet spot. And then on the other end, our white brethren were like we're like, no, it's all about reason and logic. That's all there is. When in fact, I like what you said. It's a merging of it. It's a
Oh
merging
yeah.
of it, and
Yeah.
whatever's needed, whatever season you need that. This is a season for
Yeah.
that. There's a season for that.
Well,
But people
yeah,
do
and
that because of pride, like you said. Both instances, people are doing it as pride, for prideful reasons. I think
yeah,
and they're
I
missing
mean,
out.
and pride is usually based on a fear of some sort. I'm not really sure. Like, I probably have a way too much pride on certain things, but yeah, I mean, pride is usually based on a fear that someone's not facing, you know,
Yeah.
internally, about feeling less than on some department.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like, I remember when I was doing like classical curriculum with my kids during lockdown, because I was not having them wear masks to school.
Yeah.
I went to the classical curriculum, and
Like
I had to
trivium,
really, huh?
like trivium type stuff.
I don't know what that is. Was that, did that one of them too? No,
Yeah,
I
like
just yeah,
logic, reasoning, debate,
yeah,
all that.
exactly.
That
Yeah,
yeah.
all
Okay.
of that. And I
Rhetoric.
really
Yeah.
had to go back and learn where our language comes from. It comes from oral storytelling first. And
Mm-hmm.
then once the child is able to do storytelling, then you progress them onto the written word. But you don't introduce the written word before you do the oral
Yeah,
storytelling
that's
with
what
the
I thought
kid.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's where we've been skipping out
Yeah.
on this one. But in learning the classical methods of educating a child,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing a baby does is like cry because of the feelings that it has
Yeah.
in engaging with the sensory world. So in that realm, I thought the feelings and the senses come first, and then eventually the human experiences to embrace and encounter logic and reasoning, either inductive or deductive logic and reasoning, and that is in defense. That is created in defense of the tribe. Is you're able to, like, you look at every tribe and they've got some form of logic and reasoning. If they created,
Of course.
bows and arrows to
Mm-hmm.
hunt, that's using logic, reason,
Yeah.
mechanics and stuff. So it has value. It definitely does. I don't find it any more supreme than the feeling side. The feeling side,
Yeah.
like when you look at so many people arguing for feelings these days, that's
Yeah.
kind of insane too. I'm like, both of them are rather irrational. It's very
Mm-hmm.
irrational to imagine we're ever going to be purely logical. And it's irrational to imagine that we should just submit to every feeling that we have. It's bizarre. So
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't know all that part of like looking at the classical, and then
Mm-hmm.
it made sense. I was like, oh yeah, sensory world and emotions kind of come first, and then it's a sense of tribe, and then the logic is meant to defend the tribe,
Mm-hmm.
And when I looked at it from that, I was like, okay, I can appreciate them all. But
Yeah.
yeah,
They all have their role.
mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I like the Montessori. That's one of the modes I was looking
Oh
into when my
yeah,
son was born.
she's
Like, cause
great.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
like using the importance of our hands and not our mind getting ahead of our our body and stuff, in the sense that, like, with movies, watching movies and now tablets and stuff, like kids are doing that way more than they are knowing how to, like, tie their shoes or just take care of them. So I like how Montessori is very practical.
Yeah.
So when the baby's born, they literally have a bed, so instead of a crib, so the baby can literally roll out and be safe off the bed,
Yeah.
and all this. It's really cool. And like you said about the reading, because I know it is cool to have our young kids be able to read and stuff like that. But do you think it's ever like a good thing to have them read super early, or you should do those other things first, in your opinion?
Oh, I believe in play. I believe that
Yeah.
you learn best by playing when you, especially as a child. But I
Uh-huh.
mean, I believe that play should be an integral part of the learning experience. Otherwise, it's like, I think they did I remember this when I studied it in high school, was that, there was a experiment where you have they had a, like, I don't know, an animal that was caged, and it gave it rewards, like a grade or something.
Uh-huh.
But not, the animals don't respond to grades, but they just give it a reward. But then when you take away the reward, it quits learning. But then if you don't give it a reward and let the reward be the actual process of learning,
Yeah.
then it was a slower process. You didn't get as quick of results, but
Yeah.
it when you took away the incentive, the animal continued to learn, because humans are innately built for learning. So
Uh-huh.
reading and writing, if they're exposed to it, it's going to come at some point, if you
Yeah.
expose them to it, because they'll want to know it. But pushing it early doesn't make sense, because it almost creates a imbalance within the child. I like Maria Montessori with her
It's
books, because she went into the slums of Rome and saw these
mhm.
children that, she originally did her studies to gear towards disabled children, and
Mhm.
but it ended up helping the kids that were left in the street urchins, and
Mhm.
so she ended up teaching them, and people learned that anyone's teachable if you give them the right direction. And I really loved her work. She was
Right. It's
amazing.
amazing. It's super
Yeah,
amazing.
amazing
Yeah.
woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, she had a rough life, but yeah, she left a great legacy. But yeah.
To this day, we have their schools out here.
Hmm.
Yeah. All the way up to high school. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
saw some of those in Texas. But yeah, the foundation unfortunately wasn't, it's not,
That's solid.
well, no, I mean, like anyone can stick Montessori on their daycare.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah,
It's not
I've seen them do that.
patented, I
Yeah,
guess is the word.
it's
Like
not. No,
unlike
no, no.
yeah, like Waldorf, he was another one around similar
I know
time.
Waldorf. That's another one.
Yeah, but he kind of
He's an
patented, so
art
you can't
guy.
have yeah, you can't have a Waldorf school without it being through all
Well,
of these
trained
hoops and
people
everything.
were
Yeah,
trained and stuff like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas
No,
Montessori's not quite as well.
yeah, I've seen some here, but then I actually came across one of the few times I actually engaged was the expat community here. I met a dude who he was a trained and certified Montessori teacher, and he was so passionate about it, and he was just talking my ear off about it, which was great because I actually love that stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I could tell
Me too.
he was legit. He was legit. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. But with that said, though, if you do want to go into the, like the Prussian school system, way that the conventional way of going to school, like for college, for example, or
Mhm.
or 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 high school, you probably do have to know some of those ways too, right? To engage that's what that young person wants to do, you know. I
Well,
think it
I
would be
don't know what you mean.
I think it would be kind of it would be kind of, it might be a big shock or maybe some growing pains if all you did was Montessori, for example. And then
Through
all of a
high
sudden
school?
you're like, oh, going to go to high school. No, I'm talking about if they switch to like a more traditional
Oh, the
way,
child would
mainstream
be
way of doing.
far advanced. I mean, that's a lot
Yeah.
of the kids in Silicon Valley. They've raised their kids on that method, and they were exposed to it, so their learning curves like way above because they're already
Hmm.
engaging. And yeah, I mean, I've seen certain kids that were homeschooled go into the public school system, and they're a lot
You did
oftentimes
good.
light years. Yeah, they're light years ahead of other. They're not afraid to raise their hand. They're not afraid to participate.
Oh yeah, 'cause
They're
that's
not
good then.
afraid to
Yeah.
be smart, and that's
That's the hardest part, bro. In the
hmm
sense of like the kids that are afraid to raise their hand, man, and they don't trust their own instincts or their answers.
right. Yeah,
Those are, man. As a
they're
teacher, it's kind of
trying to
like,
be they're trying to be cool by being dumb,
yeah.
which has always been like it seems like a tribal thing. Like when you look at any kind of culture, whether it's inner city or you're looking at rural where oh, you think you're better than us now that you've jumped out of wherever it is.
Hmm.
And so then the tribe kind of shames people who step outside the norms in that regard, which
Yeah.
is unfortunate because I feel like, you can bring the whole tribe up too, by having someone expand and move outside. But yeah, those are
Yeah.
just different things I was talking about today. It's weird. Now we've
Yeah.
completely jumped off paranormal stuff though.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of paranormal shit happening, but
Yeah, and like that kind of stuff that you can't explain. That's
yeah.
that's not stuff that, like you can explain even with reason and logic. And that's where I'm like, well, how can you just be reasonable and logical? There's more to it than that with life. I don't know.
Yeah, it's boring. I
Mm.
don't know. It's just not fun. And also too, it's not advantageous to using all your arsenal of weapons. I use that like that, like war.
Oh.
Yeah, feeling is great. Feeling is great. It's just sometimes now you need to be stoic, but other times no. It's great to be passionate for some of us. Show our passions
Absolutely.
about stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Other times no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes it's the people will use feelings to manipulate other people into doing
Yeah.
things that they would not otherwise do or they would think differently maybe. But I
Yeah.
often think people who do follow easily on that emotional train, it wouldn't
Uh-huh.
matter who they're following, they'll jump the emotional train regardless because they don't want to be necessarily responsible for their own autonomy of thinking and feeling and so on and so forth. But yeah, the feelings are very good for certain things and
Mm-hmm.
not for
What
others.
do you have any advice for people that are like that we know who are caught up in the dynamic of the whole, like, I either like love, for example, I love Trump or I hate him with a passion. But either way, they talk about him way too much.
Oh, yeah, I see that a lot, and I'm like, okay, realistically,
Uh-huh.
he's irrelevant to your reality. Where you're
Yeah.
going to see the most change is on a grassroots level, and how
Right.
you engage with your community, your neighbor, your local, chamber of
Mm-hmm.
commerce, whatever it is.
Your circle of influence, your sphere of
Yeah,
influence.
I'm like, if you want to blame him or you want him to be your savior, you're
Mm-hmm.
engaging in a neurotic model called the Karpman drama triangle of like rescue, perpetrator, and victim. And that's a very
Wait, I
low
gotta write that. I
frequency.
gotta wrate that down.
Sure,
Oshima.
it's called
Like
the
Eric Carmen.
KARPMAN,
Oh, okay.
Karpman drama triangle.
I got it. Thank you.
And
I
it's
thought you said
always
like Eric Cartman from South Park.
exactly. Yeah. Kyle's mom is never mind. I'm not singing on your panel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Leave that for me.
But yeah, that's a lower tribal frequency. Like when people find themselves caught into a victim, perpetrator, rescuer triangle, they're operating off of a neurotic paradigm. So if you're looking for someone to rescue you, insofar as a president, you're not being an adult mindset. You're not grown up. You're not embracing adulthood because you're still operating from like a teenage, crazy neurosis type mentality. Because every like codependent, neurotic, all of that, they have that kind of thing going on in the back of the mind. And so the same with people who are giving him too much power as being like the devil incarnate. Okay, you're still operating off the same thing. And when you do one, you've got to play the whole drama thing to the end. Like if you're someone's rescuer versus empowering them and teaching them that they can do it themselves, and educating them to embrace it, then if you're rescuing, then you'll eventually become the perpetrator and the victim. It's just inevitable whenever you play that drama triangle. But are you still there? Did I lose you? I might have lost you.
No, I'm here. I'm here. I was
Oh,
coughing
sorry.
for a second.
Yeah. So
That
it's a neurotic paradigm. That's how I approach it. Is like, oh, okay, orange man bad, orange man good, okay, whatever.
It's because like try to be compassionate with those who I love, who or care for, that are in that dynamic. 'Cause I can kind of see through it where I'm at, but I'm like, there's so much other things that we can be engaging with that are that we can actually have effect over. But then sometimes they take it as that like you don't care about those people, that some of those policies are hurting or whatnot. But it's like, of course I do, but like, what are we gonna do about it? In a sense, but try to be the best people we can be. It's just wild how this one person can do that to people. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's like on the people. I mean,
That's on them. Yeah, I get it.
they've been conditioned to feel helpless, and they are
Uh-huh.
encouraged in that helplessness, so they're not really embracing adulthood, because we've had a perpetual childhood for so long, starting with like the boomer generation, and it
Yeah, Peter Pan
continues.
syndrome.
Yes, and so people don't like, if you want to really make people uncomfortable, talk about personal finance and debt. I mean, they keep
Yeah.
delaying it and borrowing against the future, and yet,
Yeah, that's a big one.
rescue yourselves, live on less, do good by yourself, instead of looking for someone else to rescue you, or self-medicating by buying stuff on credit from the future. I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you doing with your life? I mean, you want someone else to be your bad guy in the narrative, or to be the good guy. Why
Yeah.
don't you just be an adult and be part of your own story. But I guess, I don't know. I mean, as someone like brought him up this weekend, and they were looking at him more like a savior model, and I'm like,
Hmm.
let's talk about your childhood. You know? And I'm
Daddy
just
issue.
like, okay, how did you get here? Okay, I understand now. Uh-huh. And so,
Yeah.
they have their own stories that have nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
And that's where you go into, is like, what is it in your story that makes it where this is part of your narrative, where you're giving this person this much power? And
Yeah.
I don't get it. But
I'm beginning to think that it's that it's an excuse. It doesn't matter. It could be Trump, it could be Biden, it could be Putin or whatever. But the reason they get mad maybe is because you're taking away their source of scapegoat, which they know deep down at a visceral level they should be inward with that in a positive way, transmuting that.
Yeah, because it's a
Hmm.
delaying of being an adult, and they
Yeah.
don't want someone to tell them to grow up. I
Yeah.
mean, and so you don't really tell them to grow up. You're just like, okay, tell me about your childhood. Like,
That's a good one.
how did
That's a good one. I like
this
that.
like, tell me about how you work. How did what is
Yeah.
this that makes it so that this person who you'll never meet in your real life
Hmm.
carries so much gravity, like the boogeyman or like your
Right.
Jesus figure? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
My thing is, maybe it's just my optimistic way of looking at things and stuff. Like my thing, some of these people that people hate, a lot of people hate stuff. I have a feeling that when I look at them, I'm like, if you just go up these people and just be literally cool, like I'm sure they would be like decent to you. I'm not saying
they
like
are.
no, yeah, you know what I mean. It's the
Yeah.
people that are walking around like we were talking about earlier, the murderers, the 8 murderers that you met, serial killers. Those are the people you really should.
Right.
If you have some hatred or some spidey senses, those are the people, not some dude in a fucking only see on the TV screen.
Yeah.
So. And even
Well,
even those serial killers, you don't really have to worry about them as long as you're aware of shit.
right. And in
Yeah.
that regard, you just start empowering people to dictate their own narrative,
Yeah.
and part of that means, like, what's your story? Like, how did you get here where this person is dominating the conversation?
Yeah.
And I don't even want to talk about him, and I don't talk about him, to be honest.
Right. I know. I never heard you mention them before. I mean, I've been looking at like I try to put one popular trending thing on the back end of a segment for our broadcast.
Okay.
And the thing was about, that's why I have Conan O'Brien and Mark Twain awards, because you got the Mark Twain award. Isn't that like, that's like supposed to be like a really prestigious award for an artist / comedian, I think, or
Okay.
commentator. And like I think Conan used his exception, getting the award as a platform to talk about what Mark Twain would think about Trump, I guess,
Gosh. Yeah.
about bullying people and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And because I don't have the quote right now, but Mark Twain has a quote about bullies or something like that, some famous quote or something like so. I don't know. Yeah,
Mark Twain was also a Mason.
doesn't surprise me. To me, it's almost probably anyone successful was.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a great writer.
Yeah.
I actually like Zora Neale Hurston slightly better these days. She was phenomenal.
She was great.
She's like way undervalued in the history. Like, she's just now recently come up in the ranks, and it's just like, wow, the way that she wrote is incredible.
Yeah.
Like, it's because you were talking about the Gula earlier, and how
Yeah, exactly.
if you read like the writers who can encapsulate the language and the lingo, and like she did, and like Mark Twain did, to me it's like mind-blowing. And do you see what I just did there?
Yeah, do that. Hey, wait, do that again. Say that again.
No, do you see what I just did there?
With Mark Twain and
Yeah,
Zora
I
Neale.
completely moved the topic off of Bad Man, Orange Man onto something else, because
See, I even
don't
forgot about
welcome
him.
it in my reality. So
Yeah.
no, you circled back to it again, and I'm like, nah, still don't want to talk about it.
I'm trying to get this. I'm trying to get my check mark, my neurotic Virgo shit about. I need to at least talk about this for, even if it's for 10 seconds.
We did.
We did. Okay, we did. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
But now we're
But
talking about
that's how I
Zora Neale
approach
Hurst.
it. That's how I approach it with other people when they engage me. Is that I'll move the topic into something completely else that has nothing to do with it, because I don't really want to talk about it. So it doesn't interest
That's a
me
way.
at
That's
all.
a good way of doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I just
Yeah, I've done that.
segue
Yeah.
into something.
Mhm. So,
That's how you
so
determine what you want to talk about, what your reality is, and what you want that to be part of your reality. Then you move the
it's the
conversation
segue.
flow.
I
Yeah,
love it. The segue. You're the
yeah.
right person
I
to
was
talk
like,
to.
wait, Mark Twain was a
See,
Mason. I don't really know if that's true or not, but I was like, let's talk about something else, because I really
Yeah.
don't want to talk about
I know.
Ant-Man.
I think he's hilarious though. Like, but the whole Mark Twain thing. There's some interesting thing about his wife. Is very sickly. Was very, very sickly when they were married, and I remember he was away a lot. I remember reading about that, and I don't know.
I
And
really don't know a whole lot about his personal life.
people
Like I
love the
said,
man, huh?
yeah, he's a great writer on the Mississippi. It is amazing.
Interesting enough, one of his stories that's famous takes place in the Bay Area, like the frog jumping contest of Calaveras County. That's in the
Really?
East Bay of the Bay Area, Northern California. That's
awesome.
one of his stories. So I wonder what he was doing. I think if he was around in the 1800s and stuff, he probably was in San Francisco. There's a lot going on there, huh? Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
But,
possibly. The gold rush and everything.
The gold rush, yeah.
The 49ers, the 1849, the gold
That's
rush.
right. But you look at his catalog and stuff, it's great, Tom Sawyer. And then you look at someone like Zora Neale Hurston, who was like prolific writer. Like she has like damn near like at least like I want to say like 20, 25, 30 books alone that I remember seeing. And but hers is like anywhere from the mystical, like kind of like that, like Gullah mystical, but also talking about like real personal narratives.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
like real transformation right there, man.
Yeah, I read in January.
Their eyes were watching God, of course.
Their eyes were
That
watching
one.
God, yeah. And I was like, the movie did not do it, in my opinion, justice, because it totally skipped out on the end trial. And I was like, really? But it was it was an incredible story of her evolution. But yeah, I was like blown away. I mean, just blown away about how multifaceted and layered her viewpoints were, and her ability to put that in. And I think she was just kind of swept under the rug because she was not part of the socialist communist movement of the Harlem Movement. And they were like Langston Hughes. I loved his poetry and all of that, but I did not know he was an avid socialist and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I think that's where she fell out of favor with her times, was because she didn't fall into the political regime. She was more of an independent soul. And so I like that about her. She was ahead of her time, actually. Way ahead.
Yeah. Way ahead. Here's somebody that's ahead of her time. What's up, Izzy? Good to see you. Long time no see in the chat. Izzy, the great Izzy, and the great Resto Chester. What's up, bro? Good to see you, man. Been thinking about you guys a lot, man. Who the hell are you? But you're here now. And that's a great thing. I'm getting verklempt. Talk amongst yourself. Zora Neale Hurston.
I'm just
no, hey, you brought it up.
I'm kidding.
You brought it up. Orange man.
I'm joking.
Yeah.
No.
I'm joking. Yeah. But the horror thing, because I was saying it earlier about like one of the reasons I see that people love their horror, people love their horror niche films is because that dopamine rush you get when you recognize there's a something bad about to happen. Your body
Yeah.
does flood you with dopamine as a reward, right? And that's why I
like
think the people
gamblers
that
or stuff. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I think that's
Same,
what these
same
in terms
here.
of the horror film people or the creepy pasta, they get addicted to that. Whereas someone that doesn't even they can't stand horror films, let alone watching them, marathoning them, they probably don't have that same dopamine rush. They don't have the dopamine receptor as many as the other person. I don't know.
Oh,
Are
they're
you?
probably not addicted to it. Yeah, they're
They're
probably.
not. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's more. It's like there's the we were talking about that like earlier. The fight, flight, freeze, fawn
Mhm.
response. Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's some people who just have like the fawn. I usually have the fight or flight, but yeah,
You
we're
usually
talking
go
about.
run.
Huh?
You say you usually go run the
No,
flight.
it's either fight or
Uh,
flight. I don't
I
really
don't
have
see
a
you
whole lot
running
of fawn.
much in terms of like running away from something scary
Well,
or
I don't know. I
something.
like this quote: "He who fights and runs away lives to fight another day."
That's true.
I heard that one from my kid when he was younger. He's like, "I'm brave, and sometimes I run away because then I can be brave again." I'm like, "That's hilarious."
That's a good way to look at it.
But yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think like
He
those
owns
are
it.
my two natural responses, and but there's other people who have the fawn or the freeze response, and they don't really have a dopamine thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't register. That's how people stay in denial longer than maybe they should about certain
They should.
situations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some of the people that they there's different fighting martial arts and stuff, but the straight one that's called combat teachers, they promote that how to defend yourself. First thing you should do, and these are big strong guys. Well, they say the first thing you should do if you get in a fight, run away or walk away. They tell you that.
Yeah.
That's the first
Yeah.
thing you should do. That's the best thing you can do, just avoid it, which makes sense. Yeah, makes
It
sense.
does.
Hey,
It does. Yeah.
Risto says he said he doesn't like horror films. Yeah. I don't
No.
see you as a big horror guy, Resto. And he said, why? He said, I don't want to scare myself on purpose. There's enough scary things out there. Dude,
There
Resto's,
really is. That's why I don't watch them anymore. I watch them with the kids because they want to on Halloween. But I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, I've got kids now, so I don't like thinking about stuff like that, and I don't usually watch it. But
And
when I was younger, I did.
yeah, because and sadly enough, most of those horror films, Ashima, are about children getting violated and murdered. I don't want like like the movie It, and
Oh, that was creepy.
it's always like they have no shame nowadays and just killing kids. Before they never really used to show that. I remember it would seem like it to me, but now there's
Really?
anything's off limit. Anything's everything's on the table with that. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's a big push for these horror films on the innocent.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't.
It used
really
to
watch
be
a whole
it
lot
used to be
of
the
it,
naked
so-
chick, the naked
what?
blonde chick, running through the woods or something after they're
The
getting it
Scream?
on.
The Scream.
Yeah.
One? Yeah.
Yeah, now
The
it's
last
kids.
Black girl. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I've seen that. What was that one with Ethan Hawke with the red phone? That was a paranormal horror film. That was really good. I just watched that, I think, last year with my kid. That was good. And it ended
He had
up
a red
having
phone?
kid. Is that what it's called?
No,
Red
he had a
phone?
red phone. You saying?
Yeah,
And
and it's in the room.
Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, I think Ethan Hawke was in that one, and it's that there were kids in that one, but they had to use psychic abilities in order to stop the crime as a brother and sister duo.
It's called the Black Phone.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, that was trippy. Yeah,
That was good. That was good.
Yeah, I actually
had
watched that one
to-
with my wife. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that
Yeah.
one. It was very.
See what I mean
similar,
about violating kids?
Yeah.
But at least the
That
kid
was
was
so
strong
creepy.
at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, but it also taught him to use like ESP and stuff. It was kind of cool.
Right.
But yeah, that one was kind of the only one I've seen recently that I could think of with kids besides it. But I mean, we had Children
Lovely
of the Corn
Bones.
growing up.
But that was but that put in a way that child in an empowering spot. At least that they were the super villain.
Children of
Whereas
the Corn. Yeah, that's true.
yeah, but I guess but they were basically taken over. Yeah, but yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was creepy.
That was super creepy. Children of the
Yeah.
Corn.
You ever
But you know what
gotten
this?
lost in a cornfield? Holy crap.
No, I haven't. I
That was
bet you
scary.
have.
I was lost as a teenager after seeing that movie for 4 hours.
In the nighttime or what?
No, it
In
was
the dark.
just as dusk was setting, and thank God my best friend had a dog. It was called Shithead, and it helped us get out. It was the dog helped
Shithead.
us get rescued, and we're like, SH, you're such a good dog. But Children of the Corn was one that I remember with kids. There was Rosemary's Baby. That one had
Yeah.
kids. Yeah, there's always
Yeah,
some
the
fun
kid,
kids.
the devil spawn.
Yeah, that one was
Yeah.
creepy. And yeah.
Yeah. For Nightmare on Elm Street, those were
I was
teenagers.
just thinking that one too. Yeah, that one had.
But he
Freddy
killed
Krueger.
kids before in the pre-story, the origin story. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always.
Yeah. But I mean, because that's a real thing. Like I told the story before. Like before I was born, my mom's cousin was murdered by somebody.
gosh.
She was like an elementary school student. She was
that's
walking home.
awful.
Supposedly, she was walking home from her school, and her dad owned a company. I don't know if it was like a factory or something in Southern California. But anyway, and one of the coworkers pulled up to her and was like, "Hey, your dad wants me to pick you up." And she knew the guy, right? Worked with the dad, with her dad, and he went with him in the car, and then never was seen again. So her body was found murdered.
That's awful.
Yeah. Yeah. So this shit is real. It's real, man.
No, I mean I had a friend when
It's
I
just-
was like 17 that was abducted. It's still a
Mhm.
cold case. I've been tempted to look at it, but they never found the body. I'm pretty sure she's
Yeah.
dead. But she
Yeah,
was 16.
that long, yeah.
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 Yeah. Not good
Man.
summer before she disappeared. She was someone.
You say you cut out? She was what? Still there? She glitched out for a second. Was on the comment. Was Patrick with the comment said that movie had a bunch of Masonic symbols, yeah. Yeah, speaking of movie, like Resto, I still need to. I'm so bad about putting out the content. We did a movie breakdown of Belly, the movie Belly, Hype Williams film, only film, and like this dude, I probably claims he's not a movie person or a woo woo guy, whatever. But this guy had a extremely thorough, excellent breakdown of that movie. I was like shocked the shit he was pulling out of that movie because I have seen that movie like at least 40 or 50 times. And this dude was like, he was getting it. I'm going to put that out. I do have a break coming up in a week and a half. So fingers crossed I'll get that out. But Shima, where'd you go? There you go. It was
Sorry
like you
about
glitched
that.
out when you said, but your friend was trying to contact you in the neither world.
She has several times. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really freaky.
yeah.
It's
Lovely Bones style.
Huh?
Lovely Bones style. Remember the Lovely Bones?
Yes.
Mark Wahlberg and Dakota. What's her name? Yeah, and she was in that one.
Dakota Fanning. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. She's good.
yeah.
Well,
Very good.
my internet and phone are like kind of acting.
It's that a time, huh?
on me, but yeah, I'm gonna sign off.
Yeah, you
because
shut it
it's
down.
all Staticky. Sorry.
Right.
But good
Hey,
catching up
well,
with you.
good catching up. I'm gonna have to pay you pretty soon, dude, because you gave me all this good information. Could you please,
You're
when
not
you have a
monetized
chance,
yet, so let's get what 35 more subscribers. So
30 more subs? Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. I had to buy me a coffee. I got my first, my second donation yesterday on that. But from Ruck. But no, I'm saying is like when you have a chance, can you please tell me what you said again about that, like how everything was lining up about the paranormal shit in terms of the Vedic?
Huh?
Remember when you said like you had to come on and talk about like how it's a very synchronicity that I'm talking about this paranormal stuff.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
wild.
Can you break that down a little bit, like when you have a chance later on in the Discord?
Yeah. I'll send you that.
Okay, I appreciate it. I appreciate
take
it.
care.
Okay. All right, take care.
You too.
Be well.
You too.
Peace. Yeah. All that crazy shit, paranormal stuff. What does he say? She said something about movies. Let me see. She said, I'm not sure it's black. I don't know about the tone. I get to talk to the producer about the colors of the phone. I thought it would be a red phone, but it's a black phone. Let's see. As he says, I'm not even a movie person, but I do see the black phone. Yeah. Movies are great. I mean, for a kid that didn't have much money growing up, that was my reward. That was the way I traveled the far places, going to the Century Theater right next to the Winchester Mystery House in San Jose and watching movies with mom. Okay, Patrick, I gotta pass out. Take care. Live in abundance. Yes. 9 life pass for sure, bro. 5 life path. Anytime you want to talk, I got you on Discord. Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely gonna hit you up. I meet it. The color of the movie. Okay, let's see. You're chatting stuff. Yeah, for sure. Charting. Yeah, I need to get that. I need to get that money up too. Yeah. It's good. It's good, man. Just I'm keeping it 100 here. Like me, myself, and I. I unsubbed from most channels in the panelverse recently, and just been seeing a whole new algorithm come up on my chart, on my feed, and just been kind of be refocusing on self-improvement. I know I talk a good game, like I say that a lot, but I really have been slacking on that. You know, I'm trying to be the best person I can be out there for myself and my loved ones. That's about it. You know, been dealing with a lot of sickness in this household lately, but everyone's healing up, so we're good. We're good, bro. How about you? How you doing, bro? How you doing, man? It's been a minute. Great resto, chesto. Look within, yeah. 22 life path. They drop my coffee link, Izzy. Okay, let me see. Before I pimp out of here. Yeah, y'all welcome to come up. I'm about. Well, what did we say? We say, yeah, don't sleep. You got to stay up. Obviously, you're up, but don't wait. What did he say? Don't wait. Don't wait to jump out too long. Yeah, I can't even remember. But what's up, crazy mama? How you been, party people? Hi, Ben, little Ben. Yeah, see, Ben, all your friends. This is Tuesday, March 25th, 2025, in the back rooms of Taiwan. Ben, you're 6 years old now, going on 7 pretty soon. Yeah, and this is your dad and his friends just chopping it up. Yeah, just chopping it up. Like I asked Ben, I told everyone earlier, I said, what's going on? What do you think about this topic about horror in the hood? Horror in the hood, as I'm dropping him off on the bike, on the motorcycle, taking his helmet off, and he was like, I said, what do you think about, why do you like horror movies and scare video games, jump scare games? He said, I don't know, Dad. I guess because of the graphics, and then they look really cool and they're fun. So, out of the mouth of babes, there you go. The truth. It's the truth. You're getting ready for the future. It's probably gonna be big, huh? Yeah. That's what happens when folks thinks that we haven't seen you for a while, then you show up and just shock the spot, man. Yeah. It's like those people who don't say much, but when they do talk, it hits hard. It's differently, definitely, but it definitely hits hard in a good way. People listen. Yeah. Should we do one more story? I don't know. What do you think?
It's the shit. The shit? The shit. The shit that you found.
Wait, what's up, locksmith? What's going on, man?
Drugs. I found a whole stock of them.
That's how it's been, man. Got to put my own work here. Not too much going on other panels and whatnot. Yeah, kind of get lost. I found myself getting lost in other people's shit. I have a weird relationship in general with people, in a sense, in general, and also the panel. And the panel versus the reflection. Even with here in Taiwan, where I go through these stages of I really love it, then I hate it. And now I'm coming to a point where I just have to accept things for, how they come to you. Don't get me wrong, we still have our own principles and morals and guidelines and whatnot, but dude, we're all on this journey together. And I have to say, whoever's listening right now, I know you want the best for yourself and your loved ones. So on that point, we definitely have a uncommon commonality right there. Yeah. Where did I put this thing? Yeah. Yeah. So what do we do? We're gonna play one more take on this paranormal activity stuff. Well, we got some more new people here. Yeah, I think so. This is a funny story. This read from the Paranormal Activity subreddit. We were talking about fallen angels last broadcast, the Nephilim and mermaids and all that. It says, I met someone claiming to be a fallen angel and I might believe him. Tell me what you think about this, Chad. Does this sound believable? First and foremost, I'm on a new account to post this anonymously. This is a story up for interpretation. I requested to post this in the sub for somebody from another community. Blah, blah, blah. Let me see. I'm a 39-year-old male, and I work as a paralegal for a law firm in California. Who's that, Imperious? So I can confidently say I'm highly skeptical of just about anybody out there. I take almost everything I hear with a grain of salt, especially if it's coming from somebody I've never met in my life. I was not raised in a religious household by any stretch. In fact, my dad being a community college mathematics professor, couldn't stand any argument in his work that would involve God. So that rubbed off on me. Not that I hate the idea of God. I just personally never can get myself to believe in such an idea. And no shame to anyone who does. Now, my story isn't about some loss I had to endure or suffering. I had to witness where I was mad at God and I had a red-horned creature come into my dream and to make me a deal. It was quite surreal, but intensely eerie and comforting in a way. And anticlimactic, to say the least. So on March 19th, 2021, I was walking my new Greyhound pup, and it was like maybe mid-afternoon, and we were walking in Griffin Park, Los Angeles. I had no complaints at all about the day. In about 30 to 45 minutes walking, I tripped upon some tree roots growing out of the concrete path. So I did the usual thing, looked behind me to think, what the fuck's that was annoying. Well, the tree roots happened to be actually very pretty with the patterns that were sticking up from the grass. So I just simply walked around the tree to look at it for a few more seconds. As I came around the tree, I stumbled across this man standing there who looked to be in his mid-20s. He had blonde wavy hair tucked behind his ears, blue eyes, stood about 6'1". I'm about 5'11", by the way. A white collared shirt, athletic build, khaki pants, and no shoelaces. No shoes on. But the most memorable part of seeing him was just a certain glow to him. Not literally, but figuratively. Kind of like that person that everybody just gets along with. He wasn't handsome in the traditional sense where he'd be a heartthrob, but very pretty, almost perfectly feminine and masculine. To keep this story short, but being one long read from what the hell is this person writing? From now until the point, I don't remember exactly the dialogue. I'm going to tell it in conversation form from my point of view. Exactly how I remember it. I'll be the original poster. This man will be the fallen angel. Original poster. Excuse me, I'm just gonna walk right past you here. Fallen angel. Your excuse. He said his real name. No way! You just guessed my name. Ha ha ha. Fallen angel. I didn't guess. You worked one of my cases. Original poster. Oh, I'm sorry. I worked with tons of people. Which one was yours, if you don't mind me asking? Fallen angel. I'm just fucking with you, dude. Original poster. And how'd you guess my name? It's on your backpack, Fallen Angel. It's on your backpack. Original poster. Oh my gosh, I'm an idiot. Huh. But you knew I worked in law? Fallen Angel. I'm just here admiring these tree roots. My source. He says something after this I don't remember. Original poster. What did you plan it for? Fallen Angel. Nowhere. We all come from, including your dog and that mountain, those cells in your body, that anthill next to the grandma's front porch. I used to light anthills on fire in front of my Nana's house. This didn't occur to me till days later. I used to do the same thing with a magnifying glass on my grandpa's house over there on 7th Street. Original poster. Oh, so like God? Fallen angel. Yes, like God, but not created by human emotion. Original poster. Well said, well said. From that point, exact dialogue, I don't really remember, but I remember his story and message. We talked for 2 hours, not just standing by the tree, but walking the sidewalk and the stores. I asked his name and he told me, which I won't state here for his privacy in case he happens to be a real normal dude with a life. At some point in a store, he walked by one of those Jesus magazines with the red border that you always see at grocery stores. I think that's a Jehovah's Witness paper. He picked it up, flipped it through the pages, and mentioned that he wishes he could be like Jesus, which led to a conversation on his teachings. When I tell you this man can recite absolutely any verse from any religious text verbatim, I mean it. I was convinced he was maybe a religious scholar, considering how well versed and how well spoken he was. He denied. After some Jesus and religious speak, he brought up angels and demons and my opinion on them. To which I stated, I don't believe it, but if they were real, really just good and evil, I don't really know. He went very in depth, stating that there are angels and there is only 4 of them. He mentioned how demons do not exist, nor does a place of eternal torment. I remember asking him in a joking manner, so where does that leave Satan? His response gave me an instant pupil dilation. He says Satan is not a real being, but rather the state of pure absence from God. We talked about that when the light, people have dreamt things and the light was away from them or a loved one. All darkness and the light was far away. They were trying to get to God. Satan is not a real being, but rather the state of pure abundance from God. That one who is disconnected can still feel it. Peace, can feel still at peace and be perfectly happy. But the catch is love can get boring for those who are disconnected. And that when love gets boring, your life becomes a stalemate with your soul. Damn. He mentioned that the whole idea of an angel named Lucifer getting kicked out of from heaven into hell was a story that he, the man I'm speaking to, told the people of Babylon, who then associated the name with King Nebuchadnezzar, whose birthday is on December 25th, which is where the story really comes from. And by the way, I'm in complete shock and I had nothing to say other than, what do you mean you made that story? This man casually says, well, I'm one of those 4 angels I mentioned. Like I said, I'm completely skeptical of anybody, especially LA Kooks, but when I looked into this man's eyes, I truly believed every word he said, almost like, dare I say it, my soul felt like this man was who he said he was. He said he's considered what humans call a fallen angel, but not fallen from God's grace. That it was never really a banishing, but a political stance, for a lack of a better term, that he had against things in the 3rd dimension. Fallen to experience God's creation as a completely normal human. He talked about how the real hell is that when a human soul has some sort of regret or unfulfilled destiny, it chooses to come back to earth to relive all the experiences they wish to correct, and it's an endless cycle until it feels complete. And only then does it become one with every single piece of creation simultaneously, or what we know as heaven. He went into physics, mathematics, chemistry, health, etc. And he even told me about a new discovery that would come to science. Almost everything he could explain, he explained it perfectly in real science about creation that no normal human would just know. And something that didn't seem like it was pulled from some science fiction novel or Marvel movie. I had made a Word document written 2 days later of the so-called discoveries he mentioned, to which one has been proven true. And I'm willing to share those. There's more to this story, which has me wondering if I should write a book about it. I'm too lazy. I'll stop here. So I'll stop here. So, chat, do you think this man was who he said he is? Well, kinda. If he isn't, then he's either a savant in science and religion on the spectrum, or a very convincing narcissist, or someone who knows psychology very well. And I should mention, this encounter wasn't some fairy tale experience. There would be jokes cracked in normal conversations, and he would still cuss. He'd crack a joke on the fly perfectly. That's a sign of true humanity and intelligence. He also did not, once in 2 hours-ish, conversation stutter, lose his train of thought, or have to think or stall. Everybody who interacts with him would be extremely nice and bright. Some shops would even offer free things for no apparent reason. A true celebrity. If you live in LA, you know this just doesn't happen. Also, he would speak about things just after I thought about them, casually. Some people's names, bring things up from my past in subtle ways. He has such a pleasant aura about him that, figuratively speaking, it's as if every step he took opened clouds on his path to shine some light, some sunlight. His movement flowed like butter, and his clothes would blow in the wind, but not his hair, interestingly. If he isn't some angelic being, then I hope this man becomes a teacher, or at least, very least, a writer. I've never spoken to him since this encounter has actually convinced me to look into spirituality. Truly a life-altering experience. And if you're out there and reading this man, I'm talking about God bless you, man. God bless you. What's up, Godheart? Praise God. Praise God. Yeah. Izzy was a comment. The people of Babylon are my people. Shout out to them. Shout out to Iraq. Praise God, man. Yeah, that was deep, man. Yo, that's the thing in these narratives, even if there are just make-believe, or what you want to call it, fictional or embellished accounts, you can still learn something from it. I can still learn something from it. Ben, you can learn something from it too. Just remember, take what you will from it. We shoot for the truth. We point towards the truth. Definitely. They say the best fiction written is 90% nonfiction. What do I get out of that story? In your mundane day-to-day lives of work, surfing the net, dealing with family, know that there's a mythical narrative going on overlaid over that. And then the more stories you know about the great people and events in history, the more you can overlay them on your story and see how you are probably resonating with these epic creatures in real time. And if you pair that with being introspective and analyzing your day-to-day events, especially before you go to sleep, you will see how you ain't just no random person. You're random in the sense that you're a nobody for sure, but you are definitely a nobody who knows you're a nobody, which makes you a somebody in this world that we're living in. I know that sounds cryptic and whatnot, but this has been the angel Gabriel talking to you. Then I'll see you next time here on NPC the Game. Much love, everybody.